And welcome into the Thursday edition of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, the great and powerful Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Fellas, what's going on? How we doing?
So is that like the Wizard of Oz?
Yeah, that's the reference I was making.
I got your reference.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. I've seen the movie. I've seen the movie, but it's been very, very long time ago.
Yeah, the great and powerful Oz.
You're behind the curtain. Back
Thank
there
you.
pulling the strings.
I get it.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. Glad somebody gets it. We got a loaded show for you here today. We got a lot to get into with the Nashville Predators. That was quite the game last night. We'll talk about that more here in just a couple of minutes. John Hines, Predators head coach, joining us at 7:30. Hal Gill, Preds radio analyst, at 9:30. Taking your thoughts all show long on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Joe Rexrode, that was quite the game last night between the Predators and the Blackhawks. Honestly, through the first 45 minutes, 50 minutes of that game, I thought that was one of the best games I'd seen the Predators play all season long. I mean, they were fantastic. They scored 4 goals. They probably could have literally had 9 or 10 goals with the way they were playing and the quality looks they were getting, and you felt like, okay, I mean, they have totally owned Chicago all season long. You're 6-0. You're up 4-1. This is just a horrible matchup for the Blackhawks, and the Predators are in total control. And then in about a 3-minute stretch, the wheels just totally fall apart. There's a misread in coverage, and Patrick Kane makes an unbelievable pass to set up the goal to make it 4-2. And then it's just like the Predators totally fell apart after that. Turnovers, not taking care of the puck, not picking up people coming into the offensive zone. For the Blackhawks defensively, I mean, it was just mistake after mistake after mistake. And all of a sudden, it's 4-4. You go to overtime, and Brandon Hagel wins it for the Hawks in overtime. I know you get a point out of it, and I think some people are going to maybe overreact to that a little bit today because, you know, I did say coming into the week, if you can find a way to get 5 out of 6 points against the Blackhawks, you're probably still in pretty good shape, and they still have the opportunity to do that coming up on Friday. But considering that you're up 4-1 in the third period and you had totally dominated that game, that is a rough loss for the Nashville Predators last night.
Yeah, you lost a point. I mean, really, that's what it. To me, that's what it is. You had 2 in your pocket and you lost 1.
Yep.
So they can come back Friday. Friday's big. You know, that's one of my first thoughts is how they respond to this is big because I'm trying to think of the last, and right now, if anybody's watching us, we're watching the highlights on the wall. So, and I've watched this meltdown several times now, but you know, I'm trying to remember the last loss they've had that was like this. I mean, they had a couple last season. Is it Vancouver? Does that one come to mind?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, somewhere that just completely just collapses on them. I don't know. Maybe I'm forgetting something from this year, but it's been a long time. And obviously during this whole stretch of winning, you know, they just haven't had stretches like that. I mean, those primo chances they gave up in about 3 minutes, I'd say they have gone multiple games maybe without giving up. I mean, you know, obviously Saros makes saves, they give up shots, but you're talking about just completely losing people. And completely losing people at the time of the game when you would think if there's ever a time you're going to be defensively responsible, it would be then.
Well, and losing people from guys that you shouldn't be losing people from. I mean, Eric Hall has been in the league for a long time. You got to pick some guys up. Roman Josi kind of leaving the play on a play as well. I mean, Ryan Ellis, just an absolutely awful turnover behind the net that set up that 4th goal by the Blackhawks. I mean, you're talking about some veteran guys that have played a lot of hockey that are just making awful mistakes and coming, in a 3-minute stretch there, and it's just happening one after one after one. It was like an avalanche where Chicago just kept coming after you. So, you have to give credit to the Blackhawks. They stuck with it, and they played well. The play by Patrick Kane, it's just an unbelievable pass there. So sometimes you do have to tip your cap to the opponent.
Although that's still hollow, though.
Yeah, but I just – this was self-inflicted from the Predators, and it came at the worst time. I mean, you had this game totally wrapped up, 2 points in the bag on the road, and to only get 1 point out of that when you're up 4-1 in the third period, that's hard to sit with today. That feels like one of those games that you could look back on at the end of this season and say, man, if you could just hold on in Chicago, what could your season have looked like?
Especially if this carries over into tomorrow night.
Yeah.
I mean, if they bounce back and win, to your point, you got 5 out of 6 this week. I mean, that's about as good as you can hope for outside of the 6 for 6, obviously. But, yeah. I mean, if they lose tomorrow night, then, especially in regulation, then that is probably going to be the turning point loss for the playoff picture.
I mean, they're up 3 now on Chicago. So that's a absolute saver for Chicago.
Oh yeah,
I mean
their season was over if they lose that game in regulation last night. I mean, especially when you factor in their schedule.
Right,
they've got a tough schedule coming down.
That's the thing. It's not even the Preds compared to how the Preds have been playing. That's dramatic. But think about against Chicago. I mean, watching Chicago 5-on-5 try to create offense against the Preds, I mean, talk about squeezing blood out of a rock. They just have had nothing. It's been completely stagnant. They've been completely stifled, and then it's like, here's 3 goals all of a sudden. I mean, it's like they doubled their season total in 3 minutes. Pretty amazing. It's kind of, I suppose it's also the game because things like that can happen so fast in this game. But for it to happen over and over and over again in that stretch is amazing.
Joe, you asked whether or not this has happened this year. They blew the lead in Dallas earlier this year.
Yeah.
They were up like 3-0 or 4-1. They were up by 3 in the third period. The lead dissolves, but then they win it in a shootout.
That's the game Yossi got knocked out. Yeah. So
okay. And that's the thing. If they would have just, if they win last night, get the 2 points, the 1 point for Chicago is not
really
a big
matter.
deal.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
So,
I mean, even still, after you lose the game to Chicago's, if I'm a Predators fan, they're not the team I'm worried about. I'm not going to sit here and say Chicago's done, but I don't really consider Chicago to be that big of a threat as they come down the stretch here.
They're not very good.
The threat is Dallas. I mean, the threat is Dallas. I mean, now you've got an opportunity last night to get up 3 points on Dallas, albeit they would have 3 games in hand. But it may sound like a small difference, but there is pretty big difference from only being 2 points up with 3 games in hand and 3. And I know you've got one more head-to-head matchup with them, and they've got 2 against Tampa coming up. They've got 2 against Carolina coming up. But that was a tough point to let slide last night for the Nashville Predators. And it all basically happened in a 3-minute stretch. And John Hines, Predators head coach, was asked about that stretch last night after the game. What happened? How did the Predators allow that to happen? Here's what Predators head coach John Hines had to say.
Something coming into the game, even going back to the last game against Chicago, was our net front defense. And something we really addressed and harped on here for a bit. And, going into the third period, we knew it was going to be something we had to be real strong at. So, the first one was, we get beat at the net front. They get the backside tap in on that one. The next one, we were, loose play at the offensive blue line. And then, through the neutral zone, they're a very good rush team. So we didn't get on top over the middle of the player coming through. And then they wind up with a really good play off the rush, which was on us. They're a good rush team. They get time and space. They're going to be able to make plays. We weren't stiff enough in that area with the structure or the commitment that, we need to play with in that area. And then again, if you look at the tying goal, it's a breakdown. It's a wall play. And puck gets bumped back and, we circle high instead of stopping and making sure we take care of the slot. So, unfortunately tonight, a couple of the areas that we knew we had to be strong in and had a plan going in the third of a heavy emphasis, we got exposed in it. And that was the difference of them coming back in the game.
Yeah, and I agree with what John Hines had to say there. The last goal, the one to tie it 4-4, that's the one that bothers me the most, like just looking at it. Number one, you got the turnover from Ellis. I mean, you've got to see that they're coming down on the wall at you on that play. You've got to get that puck out and go high off the wall with that and try to get it around to Ekholm, and it just gets picked off behind the net. But then you go back and look at it, and both Haula and Duchesne are like drifting over towards the corner, and the middle of the slot's just wide open. You're looking around like, hey, one of you are going to have to take it. Now, it should be the center there, so I don't know what Eric Hall is doing on that play. But one of you are going to have to take the middle away from the Blackhawks, and it was just wide open. I mean, Kubalik could not have been more wide open on that play. So, I mean, it was just a comedy of errors coming down the stretch there for the Predators.
And that line, again, we talked about the first of the three was Halla getting beat. Like you said, Patrick Kane, great pass. And that play, Yossi, I think, blocked a shot and
he was
stumbling. So, it was a little bit of a broken play. But that line's on there for two of them. I think Ekholm's on the ice for a couple of them. It just, man, it's just you're just so surprised to see something like that. And obviously, even before the tying goal, Hines takes a timeout to talk to his team, say, hey, it almost was like it was 4-1, and it was almost like they were being maybe a little bit too aggressive trying to get another goal. Like it was almost like pad the stats time. I mean they had a lot of great chances. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with trying to score when you're in the offensive zone. I mean they were just dominating the game. Like you said, they had a lot of good chances last night. Subban was really good.
Yeah, I mean
Subban was great, and he still gave up 4 goals.
That's the thing. Like, you look at the box score, and you think, all right, well, Chicago's goaltender didn't have it. Subban was awesome in that game. Gave up 4 goals. I mean, I think we exaggerate sometimes. Literally, Predators could have scored 9 goals in that game last night. They were getting quality looks from everywhere, defensemen, forwards. I mean, Roman Josi had 19 chances from the slot last night. It was unbelievable the way he was playing. And because I picked him in Preds Pick to Click, of course he didn't score. But he did have a lot of good looks there coming from the slot. I mean, you get the buzzer beater essentially by Granlund to end the third period. I mean, the play by Colton Sissons, there was a lot of really good plays, a lot of really good hockey from the Predators in this game, and it just totally got away from them there to end that third period and to go into overtime as well. Let's go to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a texture that says, the worst part about it for me is even with missing the playoffs, an 8-0 sweep of the Hawks would have made it a nice consolation. And you were right on the doorstep of it. I mean, you were up 4-1. That would have given you 7 against the Hawks. Look, I'm not saying the Hawks would have folded it in or anything like that, but all of a sudden, I think that's a demoralizing win for the Predators last night. For the Chicago, if you finish that off and you're 0-7 against the Predators, and you would have been, you got Dallas coming down the stretch. The Predators, I think, would have been up 6 on the Hawks at that point. And if you're the Hawks, you're realistically looking at it all right, we've got a really tough climb back into this thing now. Now you've given them life. I still don't consider the Hawks, that big of a threat when it comes to the playoffs. I still think Dallas is the team I'd be really worried about if I'm a Predators fan. But that was a season saver for the Hawks last night. They're at least still in this thing where you had the opportunity to essentially shut the door on them last night.
Yeah, no, they're still in it. But I agree, Dallas is the biggest threat. And, Preds fans, you get to root for the Red Wings again tonight.
Yes.
Two more against the Red Wings for Dallas. But it does get a lot harder for them. You got to keep that in mind. They've got a lot of tough games. And that one game here, I suspect will be a pretty big one. Dallas at Nashville.
Absolutely. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation on the Nashville Predators. Taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. How demoralizing was that loss for the Predators last night? What does it mean for their playoff chances as they move forward here? We'll continue that discussion next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Hinostroza through center across the Nashville line. Works in against Howland. Now Hagel. Hagel with a shot. He scored! Hagel scores into overtime, and the Blackhawks win this game. Hagel scores at 4 minutes of the overtime period.
Devastating loss for the Preds.
We had a stretch in the third period where, it looks as though we let our foot off the gas a little bit, and that's something that you can't do against any team. And I think you got to take the point out of it. You got to take the lessons from why we gave up the lead the way that we did, and I think there's a lot of good things in the game that you come back to.
A tough 5-4 loss in overtime for the Predators last night against the Chicago Blackhawks after being up 4-1 in the third period. They let it slip away. The Blackhawks come back and get 2 points, and the Predators leave a point on the table last night at United Center. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Joe, let's go to our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Brian from Indy texts in, says, "It's my fault. I ordered my Robbie's Vibin' t-shirt a day early, or it's Stillman's fault, one of the two."
I'm glad you brought up the shirt, Brian. I'm a little bit conflicted here. After a game like this, I feel like there should be some fun made of vibing, but I don't like. I feel like but I want everyone to have Robbie's face on their chests around Nashville. So
Who wouldn't?
So I want to come up with some puns, but I don't want to hurt you, man. So you tell me how to proceed.
They're still vibing.
They're still vibing. Okay.
They've won 14 out of 20.
Yeah.
They're still vibing.
That's a vibe.
You come back and you win Friday, you're still vibing.
Yeah.
You don't have to win every game to remain vibing.
If they lose Friday, though,
And
I need to come up with some other words that rhyme with vibing.
Yeah.
Because I keep going with imbibing.
Yeah.
Like last night,
saw that.
Jim Diamond, of course, blamed you.
Of course.
Which is natural. I mean, you are now. You get your face on a shirt. That's a different level of accountability.
Yeah, you're
man.
a target of a lot of criticism.
That's right. So I don't know, but I haven't really come up with a lot of good words for it. I mean, I can make fun of they put it on a banner and stuff like that. But I did. By the way, Thomas Willis though. I mean, there was a lot of tweets. We'll get into some of the tweets that took place before the meltdown.
Yeah.
But he had a tweet of someone from the Blackhawks like this, like Blackhawks 10 days ago or a month ago. The Preds are 10 points behind us, and man. Did not age well. And then that happened. But good for him leaving it up. He left it up.
I thought about a tweet that I didn't put out, and I'm glad I didn't put it out.
Okay. Really? Well, go ahead and tell us.
It was going to be something along the lines of they should rename the Blackhawks arena. Arena. The UC. But UC Saros' name.
Yeah. That's good.
The UC Arena.
Yes,
that would actually
combine both of them.
That would be fitting. Yeah. So, speaking of the goalie thing, my God, this is where some of the reaction. Oh, guys, this was not Saros getting tired, or this was not. Oh, you should have played Pekka, dude. Please.
It's 4-1 with 9 minutes left in the third period, and then they just decided to stop playing defense. That's basically what happened.
So Jay Levin is a friend, good guy. He certainly knows his hockey. He's a Michigan guy. He's telling me on Twitter here about how you got to mix it up. Other teams know your goalie and stuff. No, the guy is playing the best goaltender in the entire freaking league. No, so last night there were a few things that happened with Saros. One, he trips on a puck early, which apparently is a bad omen. That could have been an omen. Two, late in the game, I think it was the third period, maybe it was the second period, but NBC Sports, so it's a national game. It's a good game. They're playing really well, and they put up the graphic of Saros and his Vezina candidacy, and those numbers are pretty compelling. Yeah. And now never mind. I mean, it's not his fault. But but it was already a long it was already you'd have to right? You would have to be just ridiculous all the way, and he still could be from here, but then that happens and it's okay. The numbers, this is the first bad numbers game for Saros since when?
Oh, it's been a while. I mean, I think I'd heard a stat coming into this game last night. He'd given up 2 goals or less in 18 out of his last 20 games. It's pretty ridiculous.
He had a .970 save percentage against Chicago this season.
.970.
What is it now?
It's not .970.
No.
Yeah. But again, like sometimes, the whole thing of is it the goalie's fault or not? I think sometimes it can shade, certainly for the teams. Like you ask a team, and it's never the goalie's fault. I mean, they're going to have the worst goalie in the world, just give up soft goals left, right. Oh, right. we got to play better. Okay, so don't listen to the team.
No,
don't listen to the team
that's
about
annoying.
it. They're always going to say that.
Right.
They're always going to say the goalie is never at fault. It's always us. But watch the goals. Again, you're talking about. I mean, we talked about the first segment, but you're talking about just complete breakdowns. And, I mean, the last one, Saros has no idea where the puck is, and all of a sudden it's in the back of the net.
Yeah.
There's a guy alone in the slot. That's it. You're done. This was not about Saros getting tired, or you should have given him, like Jay's out here like, well, the book on it is go high. You got to change. Yeah, that's always the book on it. That's always the book on Saros. And they tried that all game, and they had 1 goal in 30-plus minutes or in 50-plus minutes of hockey. It's not – So then we get into – I got people tweeting at me about Hines. Well, this is on Hines. You got to give a goaltender rest. You can't just keep trotting a goaltender. This was not about him getting tired. He was sitting there like, oh, thanks, guys. He got totally hung out to dry. It wasn't him that got tired. Maybe the rest of the team.
I go back and look at the 4th goal, and immediately afterwards, Ryan Ellis is skating up to UC Saros and is tapping him on the chest like, hey, yeah, sorry for turning that puck over behind the net and no one being in front of the net. Look, I'll answer it this way. I'm giving zero consideration to putting Pekka in net Friday. 0.
I'm with you.
I'm going back to Saros. I don't even know how this is really a conversation.
But you do.
Well,
because it's look, and it's kind of like football. I always make the goalie quarterback comparison. It's always the quarterback's fault, always the quarterback's credit, too much blame. If the puck goes into the net, there are some people that are just going to be like, oh, that goalie. What's wrong with that goalie? No, watch the plays. It's ridiculous.
yeah.
I wouldn't even think about it either. And John Hines won't think about it.
No.
Maybe he'll tell us this later on the show.
Maybe so. Maybe it's 7:30. We'll ask.
There's got to be a crafty way to ask him.
Hey, is Saros going to play tomorrow?
Not that. There's got to be a better way.
Maybe that's what we could ask at that point.
Ask him if he's vibing, though.
Yeah, could do that. He's probably not vibing.
I dare you. I'll give you $10 if you ask him if he's vibing.
Probably need to
I'll give you $20.
Probably need to go up a little higher than that.
40?
Maybe. Now we're talking.
Let's get a pot going.
Yeah.
On the text line.
Yes, thank you. How much to ask John Hines if he's vibing? No, I agree. Look, Saros, it was, again, one of those situations where, he made a couple of big saves in the first 2 periods to settle things down whenever the Blackhawks, got some momentum and got the puck. But it was, again, kind of turning into one of those games where you look at the numbers, it looks really good for Saros, but he didn't have to do all that much. Like, I thought the Predators did a good job, for the most part, of hanging on to the puck. Towards the end of the second period, when Sissons breaks out and scores that goal, Granlund hits the buzzer beater, the Predators were dominating that game. The shift or two before Sissons' goal to go up 2-1, they had like 9 chances. It was 2 minutes of just sustained zone time. The fourth line was bringing pressure. Duchesne's line was bringing pressure. They had some good looks. And Malcolm Subban did just about as much as you can ask a goaltender to do up until that Sissons goal, where Connor Murphy, for some reason, after Colton Sissons obviously played the puck with a high stick, just said, you know what, I'll touch this, and just send Sissons on a breakaway there. But I thought it was turning into one of those games where the stat line looks great for Saros, but didn't have to do a whole lot, and then it went completely the opposite direction where he was just on an island out there, which I'm still kind of amazed at what we saw last night and just how steep that drop-off was, not only in terms of execution, but just of knowing where to be if you're the Predators. It's like they just had a total brain fart.
And that is so unlike how they've played in the last 5 weeks.
Yeah. Right. Like, you'll get one of the – of course, you're always going to make some mistakes. You make a ton of mistakes in a hockey game. Here and there, you're going to have one of those. And Saros is going to – and, look, he's made a lot of saves on some plays like that. But it's been few and far between. And when you think about condensing 3 in a row like that, it's amazing. You know, another thing that gets lost in this is the meltdown continued with Arvidsson after the tying goal.
Yep.
And actually, that was an incredible kill. I mean, that was you got 4 minutes, and you thought maybe that kind of swings the momentum back to them, but no. 3-on-3, anything can happen.
Let's go to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Trey texted in, do you think Hines should have pulled Saros, not because he was bad, but because it's a chance to halt the momentum swing and wake the team up a little bit? We do see coaches do that sometimes where, they'll give up a couple in a row in like the first period, and they'll come back and change the goalie, and you'll ask them about it after the game and say, yeah, it had nothing to do with the goalie. I was trying to wake the team up, which I do think there's validity to that sometimes. That's tougher, I think, to pull off in the third period.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Someone else came at me with that on the question, and I get it. Like 3 in a row, it doesn't have to be the goaltender's fault to make a change.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's not. It's just like let's change everything up here. But at that point in the game, you're going to say, hey, Pekka, here you go. You got a couple minutes of this, and then how about some 3-on-3 for you? You're going with Saros again. Like it was just so fast.
Yeah, and you still had some chances toward the end. Like they killed the penalty, which was, it was a great penalty kill. Chicago got nothing on that power play for 4 minutes, and you had a couple of chances coming down the other way after where I thought, man, they could still win this game in regulation after all this.
I think did Duchesne have a? Yeah, he had a.
Yeah,
kind of lost the puck.
They had some chances late, and then just couldn't get it done in overtime. That's the one goal where I think Saros kind of came off the post a little bit there in overtime and gave him some room high. That's probably, like, if I'm sifting through these goals, and the one I've got an issue with Saros is probably the overtime goal.
Yeah.
But,
you hope he can stop it. He's got a clean look at it. They went high. It was a very good shot, but you hope he can stop that one.
We'll continue
That's
the discussion on the Predators when we come back. Taking to your thoughts on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. How did this happen last night? Who gets the most blame for this collapse last night for the Predators? We'll discuss it next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Make sure you're tuning in later on in the show as we reveal a keyword for you to text into the game line for your chance to win the T-Mobile Hockey Homegate giveaway, a Dos Equis prize pack including a case of beer, dessert from Nothing But Cakes, a T-Mobile prize pack, and food provided by 312 Pizza Company in Germantown. We'll have that opportunity coming up for you a little bit later here in the show. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee, discussing the loss for the Predators last night. They're up 4-1 in the third period, and then all of a sudden that lead is gone. It's 4-4, and you lose 5-4 in overtime. You get the point, but when you're up 4-1 in the third period, especially in games this late in the season, you got to close that out. So that's a tough one for the Predators last night to get over. Now the question is, how did it happen? Like, how did they get to this point last night where you're up 4-1? You're in complete control of the game. Like I said earlier, I think they're playing one of the best games I've seen them play all year in terms of the quality chances they're generating. They're not giving up much on the other end. They look explosive. They look fast. They're making great decisions with the puck. Like the goal that Luke Cunnin scored to give them a 4-1 lead, and Eddie Olczyk kind of broke this down on the broadcast as well. You've got players from both teams kind of heading off the ice for a line change, and Josi peels off, goes to the blue line, takes the puck, comes in, attacking into the zone, holds up, backhand pass, tape to Granlund. He stops, tape to Cunnin. It was like a slam dunk for Luke Cunnin. I mean, it's just a beautiful play.
Clinical.
I mean, it's like you're executing at the highest level I've seen them execute it in a long time, and then it just totally goes the other way. You look at the goals that Chicago scored in the third period, and you try to break them down individually. Like the second one, Josi blocks a shot. He's hobbled around out there. There's a lot of time and space for Patrick Kane. Josi does his best to, like, close the gap after that, but he gets there too late. And then, Halla's not, taking away the pass behind the net, so it's 4-2. 4-3, they're coming in on the rush, and I've gone back and watched the goal to make it 4-3. I think Hinostroza was the goal scorer on that one. And Doc's coming into the zone too. And Ellis and Ekholm are both going for Hinostroza. Doc's left wide open. He's got all this room to operate, and then all of a sudden it's a tic-tac-toe play the other way. Just a defensive breakdown coming in the zone. And then we've talked about the fourth goal. There's a turnover by Ellis behind the net. Nobody's in front. Both Duchesne and Haula are drifting off to the side. Nobody's in front of the slot. I mean, these are veteran players that are just leaving people wide open or making the wrong decisions or making the wrong reads that leads to these goals last night for the Blackhawks. As you look at it, Joe, who gets the most blame for this? How do you go about assessing what happened to the Predators to allow them to get to this point last night?
Okay, well, we've established that I give almost none to Saros. I like you said.
Right.
You hope he stops the point blank, really good shot in overtime, but he didn't. Other than that, I don't blame him, and I don't blame Hines for playing him. That's just that's people reaching for stuff. I mean, can we blame Stillman? Vingan told me that I needed to spend 4 hours skewering Stillman for his Dewey defeats Truman tweet.
He was the target of quite a few tweets last night after this game fell apart.
Now, am I right that Jeremy K. Gover also apologized? Like, he also had, I saw some apology, like, this is
Stillman
my fault.
and Gover were not the only ones.
Oh, it was a lot.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, Stillman's going to be the target, and I'm all for that. Don't get me wrong.
Stillman's tweet was, quote, "This one is over, but let's not get too cocky. The Preds got to have Friday night, too. The good news, these two Preds wins are the best two versus Chicago this season." That comes at 8:05 p.m. last night.
He's already, putting analysis on it.
Yeah. And then 20 minutes later, he said, "My bad."
Yeah. The Predators' official account tweeted him and said, "Blocked." Got a lot of reactions.
Oh, did they? I missed that.
Yeah.
Well done. Yeah, so there was plenty of that.
I mean, a lot of people thought that game was over after it was 4-1.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I absolutely
Look, if
thought
you're
the
watching
same
that
thing.
game and you didn't think it was over, you're lying.
Also, if you are 1,000% serious in blaming Stillman, jinxes do not exist.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Stop.
Now, what about the puck, though?
The Omen, where Saros is coming out for warm-ups, and all of a sudden he just hits the deck after stepping on a puck.
Joe, you'll remember this in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final between the Red Wings and the Penguins. Marc-Andre Fleury tripped out of the locker room going onto the ice for either warm-ups or the game itself.
Yeah.
And from there on, the Penguins just looked horrible.
That would have been 08.
Yeah, because they won in 09.
Because in 09.
08, right.
They won Game 7 in Detroit in 09. Yeah.
Right. And they could not stop showing Fleury tripping, going from the bench to the ice.
Yeah.
Is Saros going to have another save this season?
I don't know.
Will he ever save another puck?
We'll have to find out. Do you have to trip on the other side to reverse the curse? Is that what it takes?
I don't know.
Let's go trip
Kill
again.
a chicken, something.
Maybe the Preds players should knock the pucks towards Lankinen or Subban to start warm-ups on Friday night.
A little sabotage.
Yeah.
See what could happen there. Let's go to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Wayne from Spring Hill text in. 5% of the blame goes to the team. 95% of the blame goes to Stillman. That's what happened. All right.
Okay.
There you go.
I'll read some off the text line. Kristen, you didn't read this, did you?
I did not.
The veterans let the team down. Unbelievable loss.
Yeah.
There were veterans involved in these mistakes for sure.
A lot of veterans involved.
Yeah, a lot of veterans. Primarily veterans. Because, that line again to me was great last night.
The fourth line?
Yeah.
I mean, they were awesome.
They had no hand in this. Maybe you should just play them more. Hines.
Play the whole game.
Stop rolling lines. Just put those guys out there.
Yeah. I mean, look, you're not asking everyone to be perfect. Hockey is a game of mistakes. We hear that all the time. Things happen very fast. You make the wrong reads. And look, you do have to give Chicago credit. I mean, you've got to execute on some of these plays. Even though he was left wide open in the slot, I mean, the shot by Kubalik is perfect. It's barred down. There's not a goaltender in the world that's stopping that shot right there. So it's a great shot. So they deserve credit for coming back and winning. But you can't just serve it up on a platter. That's what you have a problem with if you're a coach. Like, if they just take over in the last 10 minutes and they're wearing you down in the offensive zone and they're riding a hot streak at that moment and they're playing really well and they just beat you. I think you can live with that sometimes as a coach. It's when you serve things up on a platter and let a game get away that you have no business losing. That's what you worry about, I think, too, is if you're a Predators fan, is can that be the type of loss maybe that sticks with a team, that sticks with you into Friday? You give Chicago confidence coming into Friday. You're still down in the dumps by letting a point get away when you know the standings are as tight as they are. Like, it's on the Predators now to flush this. Like, I think in an 82-game season, there are times where, like, you could use a loss like this and make that could be a huge teaching point in, like, a film session or something like that. I think now, pretty good time to you point out the mistakes and then you flush it because you got to move on from this if you're the Predators in a hurry coming up Friday. I mean, you can't let this linger on coming into the game tomorrow.
Right. It's like the trade deadline. Well, we'll evaluate that after we see how this goes, how Granlund goes. Like Granlund last night, by the way.
Unbelievable.
Another example of, geez, guy is playing at a high level right now. And then this, the disaster level of this loss, that story will be told tomorrow night. If they bounce back and win, then look, maybe in the end it's a point, and then you can look at the point and say, man, they needed that point. They lost a point that they had in their pocket. But if they come out and beat Chicago tomorrow, then at least you know they responded well and they're back on track.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Terry texts in and says, Duchesne, 100%, talking about the blame.
Oh, it's all him.
Yeah.
It's all Duchesne.
I mean, I think it's fair to point out on that fourth goal, I don't know what he and Haller were doing. I mean, they're just kind of drifting off there, but this was more than Matt Duchesne.
It was much more than – yeah. I mean, and that's possible that it was on him. I guess I would think that the guy centering the line would be the guy, in which case you could look at Hall on 2 of these 3 goals.
Yeah.
So, but it's Duchesne's line on there for 2 of them, so you can say that. But again, like that right there, that won't be the only fan who says that because Duchesne is a very popular target right now.
When we come back, we'll continue the discussion on the Predators. Got a lot of your thoughts to get to on the text line as well. driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. That's coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Talking all things Nashville Predators, taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Ben texts in, for those of us who are kind of ready for a new GM and a new direction, what should we be hoping happens from here? I would say that ship has probably sailed at this point.
Yeah, I mean, when it was absolute low point, right? It was like, okay, what could happen here? You know, I mean, it's a different kind of situation when you have an ownership group versus an owner, and I think that the way this team has played has validated some of the choices David Poile has made. So I guess you could root for like a bunch of 7-0 losses in a row, and it gets so bad that, you know, everyone gets fired. I mean, right now I think your hope of a new direction is, well, I mean, if you're a Preds fan, you hope that what you've seen in the last 20 games is sustainable and that some additions can get you back closer to the top of the league.
Well, I think your hope for a new direction at one point was a teardown. And to Ben's point, I mean, there were a lot of chatter about David Poyle and a lot of chatter about John Hines. That's gone away for the most part. I think the hope now is, all right, these young guys are coming in, and that's going to be the new direction. And it's been successful so far. Now, can you sustain that as they move forward? I mean, you get Ellie Tolvanen back in the lineup last night. He scores again. He immediately scores. I wish I'd have known that he was coming back. And Preds picked the click yesterday. I would have taken him. But
would you have really?
Yeah.
Did you have first choice?
No.
No.
I did. I took Arvidsson.
Yeah.
Would you have taken Arvidsson if you knew Tolvanen was coming back?
Yes.
Okay, so did you had second?
You had second.
You picked
you were
Yarncroke.
taking Yarncroke, so I would have got him.
I'm rolling with the Croak.
Yeah.
Well, the
He had a
first
chance
Preds
in overtime.
The first Preds goal last night when Tolvanen scored, Arvidsson on that wraparound.
Yeah.
Like watching it live, I thought maybe it banked in off something and not Tolvanen's goal. I got a little excited, and then it wasn't Arvidsson's
It
goal.
was not.
It was again. That was another example.
Great play.
Well, it was another example. You take Granlund. He's a dominant player.
Yeah.
Doesn't score a goal. Arvidsson. What a
Did
play.
score last
By
night,
the
though.
way, so we're focusing so much on Jared and it's over tweet, like a lot of people tweeted, but he does deserve way more shame for the reiterating the floor Forsberg. He copied you and me on that.
Yeah.
After the Tolvanen goal. Tolvanen's floor is Forsberg. He says that after that goal, which again, like, that goal was completely created by the guy that you have underrated his entire career.
Yes.
But the floor is Forsberg. The floor is Forsberg for Tolvanen.
Tolvanen deserves credit. He went to the front of the net, and he just parked. That's what you got to do to score goals in this league. So he deserves credit for it. But, yeah, Arvidsson made that play.
Tolvanen would laugh at the floor is Forsberg.
Maybe.
And then
He'd laugh.
he brought it back to Clowney.
Yeah, he did do that.
Oh yeah, of course. And also, I'm gonna write like a Jerry Stackhouse is the best column after he lost Dylan DeSue. Yeah,
Looking forward to that coming out.
He
When's
played
that
the
coming
hits.
out at The Athletic.
Yeah, it's coming out today.
Okay, good.
Jared played the hits last night.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a texture that says, Duchesne might want to blame Rexrode. During your interview with him yesterday, talking the Preds' dominance over the Hawks, he told Joe to knock on wood, which I don't think Joe did.
You did though.
I did.
So there was wood that was knocked on.
There you go. Where are you going to go from here?
I have no idea. Words can be a problem, can't they?
Well, especially when you've got a hyena in the other room that just starts laughing. Yes.
Right. Like I wouldn't even have thought twice about that, and then he's just howling in there. Well, Duchesne also yesterday, it's funny because I was close to tweeting this. So Duchesne is sitting there talking about how you hope to jump on the Blackhawks and that they're young, they have doubts and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it they get those 2 goals and it's like, gosh, kind of turned out exactly like
right.
Duchesne said,
Yeah.
right? Well, there's another one. There's a lot of tweets and drafts that it's a good thing they stayed in the drafts.
Yeah. Can we talk about the Connor Murphy thing last night? I had somebody
right.
bring that up on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Connor Murphy's, first off, he's had some trouble keeping his helmet on the last couple of games for the Blackhawks. That's how the Predators got their 4th goal on Monday night. His helmet fell off, and he's just skating out of the zone. Last night, he gets his helmet taken off again by Yakov Trenin, and he's like skating around trying to put it back on. And he puts it on top of his head, and the strap is too big, and it's over his eyes. What was that movie that Sandra Bullock was in? Was it Bird Box, where you have to wear the blindfold the whole time? That's what he looked like out there. And then, of course, that was the play where Yossi to Granlund to Cunnin. But, I mean, it helps when one of your defenders that you're going against is essentially blindfolded out there. That was something.
Bird Box. Good reference.
Connor Murphy had a bad time last night.
By the way, so I got someone telling us on the whole tweet. So John Dietz, our friend John Dietz,
Yep.
Daily Herald beat writer, long time coverage of the Blackhawks. Let me find this beautiful. I had it and then I lost it, of course. Predators score 4-1, game over. Season 2. I mean,
Yeah.
there must
It's
have
everywhere.
anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it was over.
Look, if you watched that
Should've
game
been
last
over.
night and how completely in control the Predators were in the last, 10 minutes of the second period, the first 10 minutes of the third. Look, I'm one of those where I've seen a lot of things happen in hockey, so I'll never, I guess, discount the possibility that somebody's going to come back in a game. But there's not 1 second last night where I thought, okay, yeah, the Blackhawks are there's about to be a surge here from the Blackhawks, and they're going to tie this thing up. That never once entered my mind.
Again, 5-on-5 this year, all year, it has been just painful for them against the Predators. And I mean, they're not that good in general. But against the Preds, this matchup, whatever it is, like 5-on-5, they've been just miserable. So that was absolutely a bolt of lightning. I mean, I can't think of a better way. It's what it was. It was just bang, 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 and it's just jarring to see the Preds make that many mistakes in a row. Like that's the part, because you're right. The Blackhawks deserve credit. It's always not enough credit for the opponent in the whatever market you're in. They do deserve credit. They made plays. They finished the plays. But my gosh, I mean, they haven't had primo chances like that, like in some of these full games against the Preds, let alone in a span of 2 minutes and 51 seconds.
Let's go to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Matt texted in. The positive side to last night was at least we got a point, and it may not be a bad thing that Chicago got 2. This is going to come down to the last week, and Chicago is playing Dallas while we're playing Carolina in the last week. We need Chicago to have something to play for during that stretch.
That's a pretty good point.
Yeah.
Who was that?
That was Matt.
I don't have to ask you this. I have the app now.
You do.
Dangerous. No, that's a good point by Matt. It's like this. We've talked about this week about you want the top teams to be close and care about getting the one.
Or you want Carolina, by the time you go into those last 2 games, you're the Predators, to have wrapped up the one and to not care at all.
That's true too. Yeah, you want that delicate balance of it being close all the way to the end, and then okay, you're good. But that's a good point. If Chicago is fighting still, and even just on the fringe of it, there's a better chance. Although I will say that I think in hockey, I probably would say in hockey as much as anything, you can usually count on teams to give credible efforts no matter what for the integrity of the whole thing. So
I would agree.
But, a little bit of desperation, a little bit of hope is not a bad thing.
Well, and I mean, for the Blackhawks, you're talking about a game you had to have it last night. You got the Predators again tomorrow, and we all know about that. Next week, the schedule for the Blackhawks is Tampa Bay, Florida. Then you go Carolina 3 times, and then Dallas twice to end the season. So, I mean, you're talking about 1 more against Tampa, 2 more against Florida, 3 against Carolina, and 2 to end the season against Dallas, who – at that point, we'll have Tyler Seguin back.
Yeah.
That's a tough stretch.
Maybe you should let him win Friday.
Maybe so. Just keep winning.
At least give him a point.
That's the thing. And that's why, people were freaking out last night on Twitter about, letting the Blackhawks come back and get a point when it went to overtime. And I was sitting there thinking the whole time, who cares? If they win this game in overtime or shootout, again, the last team you're concerned about, I mean, not the last team, but you're not as concerned about the Chicago Blackhawks right now as you are Dallas. I mean, that's just the simple fact of the matter if you're a Predators fan. So if you were able to squeak it out and get it done in overtime last night, yes, we would be talking today about the collapse and, Predators dodged a bullet last night, but it wouldn't really be that big a deal in the grand scheme of things because you would still get the points that you needed to get to try to stay ahead of Dallas as they continue here. So I wasn't as concerned about that. You just needed to finish it off in overtime, where the Predators have been great this year, including against the Blackhawks in overtime and in shootouts, and they just couldn't get it done last night.
I'm sure the Red Wings will help out.
Look, I've said it all week. All they got to do is get 1. Just get 1 in regulation against the Stars, then you feel a little bit better.
They had a chance. That first one.
I know, that was a good chance.
That first one.
They're back at home tonight, though.
That's true.
Going into Little Caesars. That's a tough place to play, as we know.
In the worst COVID state in the entire country, by the way.
Yeah. Do they have anybody? I don't think anybody's going to be in the building.
No.
At Little Caesars. And nobody was in the building last night in Chicago either.
It was interesting because their fake crowd noise, they've clearly worked on it. Because they had a couple moments where it actually felt like a reaction to something.
A little timely.
Imagine if they did have fans. I think the fans made a difference for the Preds Monday.
But after the first goal, it took like 10 seconds for the goal horn to go off.
It did do that.
And for the fake crowd noise to react to the goal.
Yeah, it did do that.
By the way, that first goal, Yossi last night was just a wizard. But that was a gimme. I mean, that was here you go. Here's a 2-on-1.
You don't see that happen to Roman Yossi very often.
No.
So there were several uncharacteristic mistakes kind of mixed into a game last night where the Predators largely dominated for 50 minutes. So with that being said, how differently do Predators fans feel about the playoffs? How different do you feel about the big picture of the season after letting that point slip away last night? Now Dallas, 3 games in hand, only 2 points behind the Nashville Predators. We'll get into that to begin the 7 o'clock hour. John Hines coming up at 7:30 as well. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode live from the Wholesaling Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com. You're on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, hour number 2 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Middle Tennessee. Predators coach John Hines joining us at 7:30. Looking forward to that conversation coming up with him. Talking Preds most of this hour here on the program. Taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Joe Rexrode, the loss last night, a tough one for the Predators. You lose 5-4 in overtime after you have a 4-1 lead in the third period. And the question is, how differently, if you're a Predators fan, do you feel about the big picture today after that loss? Because I do think sometimes there is a tendency maybe to overreact. You look at the standings, and yes, you could have absolutely used that point last night. I mean, there is zero question about that. You're still in fourth at the moment. You've got 52 points. Dallas in fifth in the Central with 50 points and 3 games in hand on you. So that's the big challenge if you're the Predators. And Duchesne talked about that yesterday in our interview with us. Those games in hand scare you if you're the Predators. So you've got to take care of business on your own side. Chicago with the 2 points last night, they're back within 3 points of you. So that means tomorrow's game is just massive for the Predators against the Blackhawks. Joe, as you watched that game slip away from the Predators last night, did it make you feel any differently about the big picture, any differently about the chances the Predators have to get into the playoffs?
Well, sure. I mean, for one thing, this could be a point that is the point at the end. But beyond that, and we've talked some about this already, but the response to this is really going to be critical. I think that you brush it off as a bad stretch and a point lost, and nothing else really changes, and you're trending in the right direction, and you're not technically in charge of your destiny here with 3 games. I mean, the max points, even though you have 1 game against Dallas, technically they are in charge of destiny to get the 4th spot. But you respond Friday, then I think you forget about this. You flush it, and it was a bad little stretch, and you lost a point. But if you lose Friday, maybe you would have anyway, but how could you not make the link between this finish and then that?
Yeah.
Then I think you got problems.
No, I think Friday's game, you've got to have. I mean, we've talked about, 5 out of 6 points this week to me would be really good if you're the Predators and you can continue to move forward there. I mean, you still got couple games against Columbus coming up on your schedule if you're the Predators. I mean, but this is also setting up for this back-to-back against Florida next week, a team that you've also not had very much success against. I mean, you've got to find a way to win at least 1 and maybe get 3 out of 4 points there. You've got to find a way to get some points against the Panthers. And then, if you can do that, if you can get through the stretch here where you beat Chicago Friday and you can get some points against the Panthers, you get some rest before Dallas comes in that Saturday. They've not had rest in a long time, any substantial rest for a long time. After that Florida game next Tuesday, you got 3 days off at home before Dallas comes in there on Saturday. I mean, that could be huge. Meanwhile, Dallas, they don't have any time off basically the rest of the year. I mean, you've got Detroit, 2 against Carolina next week, and then you've got Tampa Bay for Dallas next Thursday before they come in here to Nashville. So Dallas is continuing to play games. You've got some time off. You would think that would help the Predators heading into that matchup on May the 1st at Bridgestone Arena. But it's interesting. You've got to find a way to win this game tomorrow if you're the Predators. And the discussion we've had all year, those top 3 teams, Florida, Carolina, and Tampa Bay, you're not going to be able to get into the playoffs without having some level of success against each one of those teams, and those 2 Florida games are going to just be gigantic at home next week for the Predators.
You know off the top of your head their Florida record?
I believe they have won
Porth, come on.
one time.
They've won twice? 2?
Against Florida?
It is twice, yes.
They've won
correct.
twice in Florida.
Yes.
That's right. That was
including
a heck of a win.
That 6-5 comeback they had, yeah.
Right.
Forsberg had 5 points.
Speaking of Forsberg, you would think at least by the Dallas game next week, based on the way it's being talked about, that you'd have a good chance to have him back. Maybe before that, but that'd be
pretty big.
That'd be big too.
They need him back.
you got to get to next week and all that stuff with a win on Friday. You really do. It's just because it does. This stuff does. It snowballs both ways, and that's what we've seen with this team on this stretch. The confidence, the cohesiveness, all that stuff. And if you let a game like this turn into 2, one, you don't have the time to be able to afford that. You have 8 games left in the season. But 2, it can go the other way on you. This team has been it's been a wide spectrum of performance this season from this team.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Ryan in Nashville texts in, says that loss sucked, but it was a wake-up call to the team not to quit as they move forward here. Also, someone take Stillman's phone and laptop away from him until the game's over on Friday. See if we can work on that.
We do a lot of that at my house, trying to take electronics away at a certain time of night. Doesn't always work, though. Like, there's always some other device that the kids seem to
too many
find.
options nowadays.
I just don't know. I don't know if Jared – I don't know. I feel like he probably has some backups.
See, I don't know that I buy that the team quit last night. You're up 4-1. You're playing really well. I just think they made some stupid mistakes. Like, I don't buy that they just, all right, we're up 4-1. This thing's over. We're just going to go through the motions for the last 10 minutes of this game. I just think they started to make really bad reads and really stupid mistakes. And that's what ended up happening. And when you do that often enough, you're going to find pucks in the back of your net.
Yeah, I agree. Like, before the stretch, they had a bunch of primo scoring chances. Now, again, there's nothing – you're in the offensive zone. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But I looked back, and it was almost like they were just like, let's just load it up on these guys. But, again, you're in the offensive zone. You got chances. You try to score. That's fine. You just can't you can't have issues going the other way. And one of those goals was they let them have an odd man rush, and it would look like a miscommunication between Ekholm and Ellis, right?
Yeah.
Other than that, it was – the first one, Yossi is hobbled, and it's a little bit of a – there was chaos as part of all that stuff. So I agree. They didn't quit, but I would say it is a good lesson of how fast things can flip on you. Not that all these guys don't know that already, but they just saw it again.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a texter that says, did Yossi play in overtime last night? I feared that he was hurt after blocking that shot. He did play. He was in overtime last night. So, look, sometimes you block a shot and you can keep playing, and then later on that thing swells up on you and you can be in trouble. I don't know. I would assume Yossi's fine and he'll be ready for next game. But I did think last night, like after he blocked the shot, I was a little nervous for a second. But also, like Eric Haula coming in the zone, he got crushed by Nikita Zadorov.
Yes.
And he went down, and I was like, oh, goodness.
He struggled to get back up.
Almost in the same exact spot on the ice, though, earlier in the game, Goodbranson got Patrick Kane really good,
Patrick
too.
Kane. Which you don't see that happen very often. Like, Patrick Kane's not a very big guy. He doesn't get hit very often.
No.
He's
slippery.
Smoked by Eric Goodbranson to the point where, like, I saw the replay, and I was like, oh, my goodness. I don't know that I've ever seen Patrick Kane get hit that hard in my life.
Just justified the 7th-round pick right there. There you go.
Seriously, the Predators fans, the 7th-round pick is probably worth just seeing Patrick Kane get smoked one time on the wall. Hey, it was fun.
But, yeah, actually, I thought Arvidsson, did he take a puck too? And it was hobbling a little bit?
Yeah, he does every game.
Yeah. So they'll probably be fine. But then again, you shouldn't assume that anyone's healthy either.
Especially not this year. That's what we've learned. You get one body back last night. Eli Tolvanen back in the lineup, scores a goal, but they definitely need some more of these bodies coming back soon. As you mentioned, maybe Philip Forsberg next week. So that would be a very welcome addition to the Predators if that's the case. When we come back, we'll continue this discussion. Are people maybe giving a little bit too much credit to the Dallas Stars based on the schedule they've still got coming up? We'll discuss that coming up next. But first, I got to tell you about my friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. And one of the things that I love about betting on basketball is I'm always finding new player props or game props that I like. And what's cool about FanDuel Sportsbook is you can combine these props with other bets from the same game to score an even bigger payout. It's called a same-game parlay bet that you can only find on FanDuel. You can combine the point spread, the first basket score, player assists, rebounds. I like to do it with Miami Heat. They've been on a roll as of late. That's my team of choice. I participated in a few same-game parlays with my beloved Miami Heat, and you can as well. If you haven't tried FanDuel Sportsbook yet, new users get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. Just place a bet, and FanDuel will refund you up to $1,000 back in site credit if you don't win. And right now, new and existing users get up to $25 in site credit back each day if your parlay falls one leg short with same-game parlay insurance every single day. That's why I bet on FanDuel. So just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app today to try a same-game parlay and use promo code ROB at sign-up. That promo code is ROB. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. A max refund of $25. Terms apply. See sportsbook.fanduel.com for details. For problem gambling support, call 1-800-889-9789. Join 102.5 The Game tomorrow at Coleman Tractor in White House, 3613 Highway 31 West, as Darren, Donick, and Chase broadcast live from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Stop by and enter for your chance to win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Nashville Predators game. That opportunity coming tomorrow on Darren, Donick, and Chase. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode are on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth are with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Right now, talking Predators, taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Predators head coach John Hines joining us at 7:30. So coming up here in about 12 minutes or so on the program. Joe, you look at the standings right now. The Predators, after the loss in overtime last night, they have 52 points, 48 games played. The Dallas Stars right behind them at 50 points, 45 games played, so 3 games in hand the Stars have on the Predators. Chicago, 49 points, 47 games played, so another massive game against the Blackhawks coming up tomorrow for the Predators. A lot of chatter right now about the Dallas Stars, the way they have played as of late. You got the Detroit Red Wings this week. They've already beaten them twice. They've got 2 more games against the Red Wings coming up. And then their schedule gets a little bit tougher. Now, you look at the odds right now. This is according to moneypuck.com, and this was updated apparently this morning at 2:30 a.m. our time. So these are the latest odds on moneypuck.com. Right now, the Dallas Stars have a 57.6% chance to make the playoffs. They end up as the 4th spot here. The Predators are at 37.5%. The Chicago Blackhawks, a 4.9% chance to make the playoffs.
Yeesh.
So you're talking about really the Stars and the Predators being the main focus of this race, but a lot of people heavily favoring the Stars coming down the stretch here to get that last playoff spot. Do you think maybe we're giving the Stars a little bit too much credit? And the reason I ask that is this. Yes, you have Detroit in these final 2 games this week, and the Stars should win both of those. But then you also have Carolina twice, Tampa Bay twice coming up, the Predators. Actually, you've got Tampa Bay 3 more times this season if you're the Stars. Carolina twice, Florida once, the Predators, and then Chicago twice to end the season. So 3 games against Tampa Bay, 2 games against Carolina, 1 game against Florida, and 9 of the last 11 games for the Stars are on the road. Do we think maybe that people are a little too high on the Stars who've not really been able to piece together a large winning streak all season long? They've played better as of late, but they've also played against Columbus and Detroit in their last 4 games. Do you think maybe we're giving the Stars too much credit with the schedule they've got coming down the stretch?
Well, but if you want to play that game, then you can look at the Preds streak and who they mostly beat in that. So I hear what you're saying, but I think the injuries are a part of that, and last year's trip to the Stanley Cup Finals a part of that.
Right, but I'm not saying credit in terms of, hey, this is what they've done. I'm saying this is still going to be pretty difficult for them coming down the stretch here.
Right, the expectation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I suppose. I think you get Sagan back, and you are much better for it. How much is home? I think in a normal year, if you had a team that had the last 7 games on the road, for one thing, that wouldn't happen.
Right.
But still, it'd be like, wow, that's tough. Now it varies from building to building. I guess people are right now they're playing Detroit, and so you're like, gosh, they have games in hand, and they get 4 against Detroit, but yeah, immediately it gets way harder for them. So it's also maybe a little bit of just skepticism about the Predators, which I think is totally understandable, even though they've played so much better.
Ryan Porth, as you look at the Stars schedule coming up, I've read off the statistics and the percentages from moneypuck.com. Right now, a 57.6% chance for the Stars to make the playoffs. Do you buy that? Is that percentage about right? Or do you look at that schedule and say, that's going to be pretty tough for the Stars coming down the stretch?
I lean towards the latter because I haven't really bought into the Dallas Stars all season. And just because they've gone on a nice little run here in the last 10 days doesn't mean I'm going to start buying into them. I will start buying in if they start beating – is the 3 games set against Tampa after this stretch against Detroit?
So they've got 2 against Detroit. They've got 2 at home against Carolina to begin next week. And then it's Tampa Bay, Nashville, Florida, Tampa Bay.
Okay. All right. Well, if they beat Carolina next week, then I'll start getting concerned that the Stars are going to get that 4 spot. I mean, no matter what, though, next Saturday night when the Stars come here, that's a game that the Preds are probably going to have to win in regulation.
Yep.
Like, I felt pretty strong about that going into last night's game, and I feel even stronger about that now.
So if they mop up Detroit and the Preds lose Friday, you won't be concerned?
No, not really.
I mean, still a lot of hockey
to me,
left.
That'd be more concerned about the Preds specifically.
Well, yeah. I mean, you'd be pretty concerned about the Predators at that point. But, I mean, I look at these percentages, and there's a lot of people looking at Money Puck right now. If the Stars lose to the Red Wings tonight, this percentage is going to change pretty dramatically. Like there's still a lot of fluctuation in these percentages as we move forward here that obviously change on a game-by-game basis. So I think sometimes we can get a little too wrapped up in the percentages here. Like, you still got to go out, play the games on the ice, and like I said, if you can get the Red Wings to win 1 game in regulation, that really helps you coming down the stretch here, provided you take care of business tomorrow against Chicago. Because if the Red Wings beat the Stars tonight and then you lose in regulation to Chicago tomorrow, that doesn't do you a whole lot of good if you're the Nashville Predators.
Well, the Red Wings have they've done some surprising things here and there. They are trying to not finish in last place. That'd be a banner, I assume, at Little Caesars Arena. Not last place, 2021. So you never know. That would be. So what is it? It's tonight and
Saturday for Dallas against Detroit.
It is a back-to-back. Yeah. Or no, it's not a back-to-back.
No.
What is today? Okay.
Today's Thursday.
Great.
Today's Sunday.
Good talk. Good talk. All right.
But the Stars, I mean, they've got 2 more back-to-backs this season. So a back-to-back next Monday and Tuesday. So while the Predators are playing the Panthers, the Stars will be playing the Hurricanes at the same time. So a lot of scoreboard watching going to be taking place.
Well, and that's nice and early in terms of, to the point of the texter earlier, the Preds could be taking on Carolina, with Carolina having the one locked up. Right now, Carolina is up there with games in hand. So right now, they're still absolutely in a battle. So it's not a bad thing for Dallas to take them on as things stand.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Josh texted in, I hope I'm wrong, but that loss last night feels like the Halloween 2019 loss against Calgary that sent the season the wrong way. That was a tough one.
That was a tough one. I would disagree with that.
Yeah, no, it's well, first off, that game was kind of the start of a goaltending spiral that just went down for Pekka Rinne. Like, I don't look at the game last night and say, all right, like Saros is getting ready to crash here. Now, is he going to – we've said this the whole time. Is he going to keep up a 955, 960 save percentage coming down the stretch? Probably not. Like, you're going to have to win games where the team scoring more – the other team you're playing against is scoring more than one goal. Like, you're going to have to find a way to generate some offense. The Predators did that last night and still lost that game. So – I get it, like from an emotional letdown standpoint, you got a lead in the third period. I think the Predators were up 4-1 in that third period too, or something like it.
They were up 4-1 after 2 periods in that Calgary game, and then Calgary storms back and ties it, and then the Preds took a lead with like a minute to go, and then the Flames tied it with like 10 seconds to go, and then Tkachuk scored the goal of the year to beat the buzzer in overtime.
Yeah.
Good
so it's
memory.
a little different. But that was
a toughie.
People did kind of point to that game as, all right, that was the game when things started to really fall apart.
That was a pretty big turning point in that season, for sure.
Yeah. Up until that game, we were talking about, I know it was October, but it was like Pekka Rinne looking pretty good. Maybe Vezina Trophy.
He was playing that well. He really was.
And then it went the other way on him after that. But that's going to be, Josh brings up a key question there. How do you respond to this if you're the Predators? You've done a pretty good job of being, quote-unquote, mentally tough and all that stuff we've talked about since John Hines has taken over. This is a pretty big test of that coming into this game tomorrow.
No, it is. And look, it's going to be a lot of, I'm sure, talk with the Preds, around the Preds. So now they know it. It was going to be a big game either way.
Yep.
But you sort of had that mental edge on Chicago. And if you just close out last night, why would they have any feeling at that point? Like yesterday's show, I said I think Chicago's going to win this game because, but it really, you were right. Like it was just the matchup's bad and the Preds dominated them, and the fact that it ended up going the other way, it's got to be in your head a little bit. It has to be. It's reality of sports. So this game is pivotal.
When we come back, we'll be joined by Predators head coach John Hines. We'll get into the game last night for the Predators against the Blackhawks and talk about a huge matchup tomorrow as well. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee, discussing all things Nashville Predators. And to help us do that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Predators head coach John Hynes. John, what's going on, man? Thanks for taking time to join us this morning.
Hey, guys. Good morning. Appreciate you having me. Beautiful morning. Sun's up. Having a little coffee, a little video review from last night. So all good here.
Very good. Appreciate you taking time to join us. And, John, just from your vantage point, we've talked about it here on the show today. What happened in the third period last night? What did you see from the bench as to what allowed Chicago to get back in that game?
Yeah, I thought when we were there, I didn't think we let off, the gas too much. I thought there were two areas of our game that we knew were going to be essential against Chicago, and one was our net front defense. I thought that, even the game at home, I thought Saros played very well, and we gave up some scoring chances in that slot area, rebounds, backside plays, like the first, like that second goal against they scored. We talked about that in the third period, so we weren't as strong as we needed to be in that area. And I think when you look at the other two goals, they're a very good line rush offense team, and if you're not uptight as a five-man unit, we made some tough reads and we weren't right up top over people. We gave them a little bit of time and space, and they made some good plays. So, we got beat in two areas in that time frame. I think, what was it, 2 minutes and 50 seconds or something? That were areas that they are very strong in, and we weren't as good as we needed to be in those components.
So, John, you called a timeout right after they made it 4-3. At that point, is that a timeout like to settle everyone down, just sort of stop the momentum? Specific things you wanted to say, like what was the reasoning for the timeout?
Yeah, both. I think it's to really reset our team and also try to stop the momentum. Where I think you come in, you get up 4-1 early right in the period, and then when you look at the game, we get up 4-1. I mean, we had numerous quality chances to make it, 5, 6, and Subban kept it in. The game's kind of just now both teams are just playing, and then all of a sudden they get up and running and they score. So you call timeout. Okay, let's have a reset. We got to get back to the game we were playing. We were playing really well. There's a reason why we were up 4-1. Let's get back to that game, but we have to make sure that we're not playing on our heels. We got to get back on the attack. And that was kind of the message to the group, but it wasn't good enough.
Yeah, and John, it is interesting because I agree. I mean, I thought watching the game, the first 2 periods, first 50 minutes of that game was one of the best games I think you guys have played all season long. I mean, you had so many quality looks from the slot. Subban was outstanding. I know sometimes fans look at it and a goaltender gives up 4 goals and think, okay, maybe it wasn't a great night for the goalie. He was awesome in that game for the Blackhawks. So how do you kind of balance all the good you did from that game with the way the game ended, and how do you make sure your guys kind of respond to it the right way heading into the game tomorrow against the Blackhawks again?
Right. I think from the coaching and from the tactical standpoints, I think as you said, I think there's a lot of things that we do well against Chicago that the players know that. I think it's reinforcement of those things. It's really addressing again our net front defense. Where and how can we be better? Our line rush defense, the situations where we're struggling. I think you have to address those situations in a teaching way. But to me, I think the great challenge is exactly what you said. Like if you're not a mentally and emotionally tough team, you're not going to win even if you get in the playoffs. So if we want to get in the playoffs, this is a situation. We played a good hockey game. We made mistakes. Okay, we didn't win the game. But in playoff type situations, right, you have to move on to the next game. You could lose. How many times in playoffs you see a team lose 5-0 to come back and win the next game, right? You have to be ready for the next one. So I think this is a great opportunity to really see the mental toughness of our group. I think we've really worked at it. I think we've gotten a lot better. But what better way, right, to come in and say, okay, if we're going to get in the playoffs, we're going to have to continue to win some big games. We may not win every game, but we're going to have to really respond when we don't win, which is a great opportunity tomorrow. And if you get into the playoffs, well, you're not going to win if you're not a mentally tough and emotionally tough group that can respond to adversity or a tough loss or a big win. Right? To me, it's no different than responding after a big win. Do you let off the gas and the other team's hungrier? These are all those little things I think really makes a team extremely competitive. And to me, it's a great challenge. That's what we're going to talk about today, and I'm excited to get to see where our team's at tomorrow and get them ready for it.
So you mentioned you're doing video review right now, John. So after a game like this, and obviously like you just laid it out for us, the message, and it totally makes sense. But in terms of the review, after a game like that, does that change at all, like your routine in terms of reviewing the game, or do you do the exact same thing every time in terms of looking past looking at the last game and looking ahead? Does the end of last night change at all how you go about your routine today?
No, it doesn't. No, because it's you have the coaches have their assignments of what components of the game that they're going to watch, and then so you divide it up, and guys will go watch it, and then we'll meet together as a staff a little bit later this morning and really discuss what they saw, what we felt. You have a long discussion with your coaching staff. We'll probably talk to David a little bit, and all this is done in preparation prior to going to the team and the players with it. And some days your post-game review is always the same. What does change is the delivery of it to the players. Who does it? How do you do it? Positive, negative, sometimes no video, sometimes you just talk to them. But I think the way that you present it to the team and the players, that's the thing that varies the most. But the preparation of the material and the post-game review is always the same.
Predators head coach John Hines on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And, John, I thought last night another example of the Citizens line just being dominant at times out there and controlling the play, not just playing well and responsible defensively, but generating chances offensively as well. When you look at that group and that line specifically, how much of a tone setter have they been? How much trust do you have in them in all situations at this point?
Well, they've definitely been a tone setter and an identity line for us of how we want to play. They're we like to have them start periods. Lots of times you put them out after a goal for, a goal against. They're big, strong, extremely competitive guys. They really committed to playing a simple game that suits their skill sets. They get pucks out of when they're in the D zone, they defend hard. When they come to the neutral zone, they're fast. They put pucks behind the D. They get in on the forecheck. They don't pass up a hit. But I think now you start to see them because they have this identity. Lots of times they gain a little bit more pucks sometimes. The D are a little bit more nervous, and all of a sudden the D aren't making plays coming out of their zone, and they're gaining possession of the puck. And they've been a threatening line, which I think is really been impressive for that group. Even with Matty Olivier on that line, that these guys, they win their shifts. They almost win every shift. Whoever they play against, they usually win that shift. And they're not just banging and crashing. They are banging and crashing, which is a big component of being hard to play against, but they can make plays, and they wind up scoring. And when you have a line that can do that, it just makes you a much deeper, more competitive, and harder team to deal with.
Another guy playing really well for you guys, John, is Mikael Granlund. Couple questions on him. One, with Duchene coming back in the lineup, was there any consideration at all to changing up that second line? And then two, last Monday, was there like an extra text or two to David Poyle, like, hey, Granlund's looking really good for us. Like, what is your communication level around the trading deadline with your GM?
Yeah, well, on the first one with Matt coming back, you always consider those things. I mean, we do try to leave no stone unturned and talk about every player coming back and chemistry and things like that. But just we just felt that the way that Granlund's been playing and that line in general, there's just some really good chemistry with them, and I think the way that they're feeding off each other is, I don't think you want to break that up right now. And Granny's done a good job in the middle. He's been good on face-offs, and he's playing some good hockey. So I think it was a good opportunity also. Duchene gets in the lineup. I thought that Cousins and Hall are playing really well. Hall has done a really good job in the middle, and sometimes coming in on the wing, it helps you get your game going with a little bit less, defensive hockey or even more about face-offs in those situations. So we did talk about it, but didn't really have a lot of consideration of breaking up the line. Regarding the deadline. Yeah, I mean, David and I talk all the time with along with the other coaches and the director of player personnel and pro scouts, and I think David does a really good job. I mean, he includes everyone. Everyone has an opinion and everyone has a voice, but ultimately he's going to make the final decision. Part of going through the deadline is that, I think David also said it, that he would consider, Granlund coming back. I mean, the thing that makes him, valuable is obviously the way he plays. But I mean, this guy, it's not going to matter how much money he makes, or I think he's going to age fairly well. I mean, he's in unbelievable shape. He can log big minutes. He can play center, wing, power play, penalty kill, 6-on-5, 5-on-6, plays banged up, never in the training room. Just a hockey player. And that's why he's as good as he is. And that's, I think you want to have those types of players in and around your team, that they love the game of hockey. It's all about that. It's not about lifestyle, money. It doesn't change him. He's just the same guy, and he's a really good hockey player.
Well, he's certainly been really good for you guys as of late, and got another big game against the Blackhawks coming up tomorrow. Coach, thanks so much for taking time to join us this morning, and good luck tomorrow against the Hawks.
All right, thanks, guys. Always enjoy talking with you.
Absolutely, you as well. John Hynes, Predators head coach, has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. When we come back, we'll react a little bit to what John Hynes had to say there. Also get into a couple of cringe-worthy moments from some coaches in other sports in the sporting world as well. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. 1025 The Game is kicking off every weekend with some free beer.
Free beer.
Oh, that was a good one. That makes up for Monday for sure.
The pipes are back. They're strong.
Back, baby. Make sure you're tuning in all day on Friday for your chance to win a $25 gift card from Bavarian Beer House located at Opry Mills Mall. The beautiful voice of Ryan Porth will guide us through that on Friday at 9:45 with a wonderful trivia question once again.
Free beer.
Free beer. That is correct. Thanks to Predators head coach John Hines for joining us in the last segment. Joe, I thought his response, although not surprising, was very interesting, and I think exactly the message that I expected from him, but a pretty passionate response there from John Hines about the opportunity that his group now has. Obviously, it did not go the way you wanted it to last night in the third period. You lose that game, but talks about if you're not tough mentally or emotionally, you're not going to win even if you get into the playoffs, this being a great opportunity to really see the toughness of the team that they've spent so much time talking about. What'd you think of that? And that's got to be the message if I'm John Hines today to his team.
I mean, I feel like it was a little bit of a trying it out on us.
Yeah.
But I almost got the sense of excitement from him. And no one wants what happened last night to happen, but excitement to see how these guys respond. And he made the point, and coaches make the point all the time. It's not just responding to bad, it's responding to good and having to, it's the process, and it's a lot of cliches and, approaching it the same way and staying level. And certainly I think in terms of coaches who sort of project what they want their team to be, I think John Hines is about as level as it gets out there. But I sensed, a little bit of excited anticipation about how his team's going to respond to this.
And that you talk about what we just heard from John Hines, that's the message from a coach that I think is level-headed, that you can respond to, that has an effect on the players that you have. But, Joe, yesterday, we've seen some coaches in the world of sports. They come out with some really stupid stuff that they've said. Let's start with this Portland State basketball coach, Jace Coburn, I guess being introduced as Portland State's new basketball coach, which, we're sitting here talking about Portland State's basketball coach. So I guess mission accomplished by him.
In Nashville, Tennessee.
That's
a W.
But there is a clip from the press conference where he's describing his work ethic and the mental toughness that he wants to put on display for his team. Here's what Portland State basketball coach Jace Coburn had to say about his work ethic.
The other thing is I'm hungry and passionate. I don't eat breakfast in the morning so I can come to work hungry. So when I get to lunch, I'm hungry. And that's just the kind of person I am. I know my 2003 Chevy Tahoe's got a lot of play this week so far, but it doesn't have AC and it doesn't have heat. And the reason I do that is so I can practice my mental toughness during the winter when it's cold, and I can practice my mental toughness during the summer when it's hot. That's the type of person I am.
Yeah, buddy. Let me run through a wall, baby.
I've never heard practice my mental toughness before. I've never heard it said that way. I like to put my hand in the microwave and...
How can you do that?
Yeah, I know. It makes no sense.
I know my 03 Chevy Tahoe's gotten a lot of plug this week, but the thing is, it doesn't have AC or heat. And the reason I do that is to practice my mental toughness. That is one of the dumbest things I think I've ever heard.
Just gets in the morning and just trembling, jeopardizing other drivers because he can't grip the steering wheel.
I don't eat breakfast because I want to come into work hungry. What?
Do we feel like John Hines does that to practice the mental toughness that he talked about ad nauseum with this team for the last 14 months?
Coming in when it's 15 degrees in the morning, just windows down, shivering the whole time.
Why didn't we ask John Hines about this last segment?
Good have.
John, do you believe in heating or cooling yourself?
That to me is a situation where he's probably writing out the comments that you're going to make in your introductory press conference, and it's oh man, this sounds great. I'm definitely going with this.
Looks so good on paper.
And then you say it, and you're like, that is literally the stupidest thing I think I've ever heard in my life. I don't eat breakfast so I can come into work hungry.
So you come in, your stomach's growling, you're like hangry, you know. I mean, like I'm trying to like that may not be good for job performance if you're hangry. I mean, especially based on like my kids. You know, if you want them to like, perform or, be good at school or whatever, like hangry is not the way to go, man.
No. Let's go to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Tyler from Berry Hill texted in. That guy's definitely not mentally tough in the fall and spring, though, when it's 70 degrees and no heat or AC is needed. That is true. Like, do you just take the fall and spring off from practicing your mental toughness? Like, you get all the practice that you need in the winter and summertime?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, maybe, or does he? We didn't get the whole story. Maybe in the spring and fall he adds that to his so that he can, intensify the mental toughness practice.
Maybe so.
No, you have to use the heat then, or you have to use the – well, really what he should do is he should put the heat on in the summer, Yeah. I mean, he should blast the heat. Come on, man.
Get this thing rolling in there. Come on. You can be really mentally tough. That was – man, that was quite the clip from that press conference, and that was, I promise, the last time we'll ever talk about Portland State here on the program.
Don't promise it.
Well, I should.
How do you know?
That's true. He could say something else.
Or this guy could.
He could turn it around.
I mean, turn around Portland State into the next Gonzaga, and we're talking about them in the bracket next year.
Could be in the Final Four.
They could be the 16 taking on your number 1 seed Vols next year in the NCAA tournament. We're talking to that dude all week. We have him on the show.
I'd probably pick him at that point.
Be the
we could ask him. I mean, it'd be wintertime.
Seed.
Yeah. It'd be wintertime at that point. We could ask him how the mental toughness is going.
It'll be like, when we fly to the site, I will hold my breath the entire plane ride to practice my mental toughness.
I'm going to ride on the wing of the plane to see if I can test my strength.
I'm not going to the bathroom for 3 straight days.
That'd be tough. That'd be real tough. Yeah.
That'd
Then we have
something.
So that's one thing.
That'd be something.
I mean, you're talking about a lower level college basketball program. So that's one thing. Like, it was stupid. But now we also have an NFL head coach saying some of these things as well. First off, Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni not naming Jalen Hurts the starter, which, okay, you don't have Carson Wentz in there anymore. Jalen Hurts is going to be your starting quarterback. But if you don't want to name him yet, that's fine. We see coaches do that all the time.
Maybe they'll go get a QB in the draft. You don't know.
So. I don't know. I guess you don't know. But he's going through like his pre-draft Zoom press conference with the media yesterday and is discussing like talking with draft prospects and says, quote, I played a few of them in rock, paper, scissors. Let's see how competitive you are. I'm competitive. I'm going to be trash talking them. Are you going to trash talk back to me? When you compete with someone that's competitive, they're going to go at you no matter what game you're playing. So like wearing this badge of honor, if you're Nick Sirianni, about, yeah, I was playing these draft prospects in rock, paper, scissors on Zoom to gauge the competitiveness level of them heading into the NFL draft. If I'm a player, and I know not everybody's wired this way, but if I'm a player and I like this dude is just going nuts to me on Twitter about rock, paper, scissors, trying to figure out how competitive I am, my first thought is, please God, Philadelphia, don't draft me. Let me go anywhere else.
Like, what's up with Nick Sirianni, man?
I don't know, man.
We need Nick Sirianni and Dan Campbell somehow on the same set. We need a Lions-Eagles
Do they play
game.
each other this year?
I hope so.
Man.
I mean, seriously, any like trash talk. Oh, yeah, throw that rock out. Yeah, let's see some scissors. You don't have the guts to throw the scissors out there.
It's like, what are you talking about, man?
What in the hell?
What did he do at his introductory press conference? Wasn't he the guy that was like trying to describe the identity the way they were?
He's like, we're going to like be really smart and stuff, and like and then do the plays,
but not too smart, and then we're going to throw the ball. And you're like, okay, well that's great.
We've probably totally botched it, but it was something like it was complete nonsense.
Just some of the, like, how do these people get jobs?
Let's play some Uno right now. Old maid in your face. I don't know, man.
How does he have a job? How is he a head coach in the NFL? Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe he's going to come in there and the Philadelphia Eagles, they're going to get right back into prominence. They'll be competing for Super Bowls. But right now, this has like disaster written all over it. Him. I mean, Dan Campbell's different. It's the Lions, so it's like automatically a disaster to begin with. But Nick Sirianni.
Did you say the Lion?
Lions.
Okay.
It might as well be the Lion.
They should take the plural away from
them.
A mighty team that will not yield.
What percentage chance do you give of Nick Sirianni being a successful head coach?
I don't know, but if he is, then there better be T-shirt game happening. I better see the fist, the scissors, and the hand making the paper on a T-shirt all over Philly.
We're going to bite off some scissors.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a text that says that motivational speech is up there with Herb Brooks. Yes, it is.
Right, yeah. Herb Brooks, I heard back then, no heat.
Yeah.
No heat in his car. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of mental toughness displayed by Herb Brooks.
Practicing your mental toughness.
Minus 23 degrees in Minnesota, just riding around. No
it doesn't have AC, and it doesn't have heat. And the reason I do that is so I can practice my mental toughness during the winter when it's cold, and I can practice my mental toughness during the summer when it's hot. That's the type of person I am.
He's pounding the podium. No AC!
It's like a badge of honor. Way to go, buddy. We wish you the best of success at Portland State.
What's his name?
Jace Coburn.
I'm following him on Twitter right now.
You go.
This has got to be just hilariously great.
Oh gosh. Let's just coaches around. Look, I'm all for coaches having some personality, but let's try to be less corny about some of these things, please. Can we?
Well, you wrote cringy. That's kind of a newish word.
Yeah.
My kids use that word, cringy.
Yeah.
I think cringy is pretty good here.
Cringy, yes. That's
also
bad.
cringeworthy.
It is cringeworthy. That was rough.
But I like cringy better than cringeworthy.
Yeah. That
Just saying.
That was definitely cringy. When we come back, some bad news yesterday for Jerry Stackhouse and the Vanderbilt basketball program. What kind of a blow is this for Jerry Stackhouse? What does this mean maybe for his long-term future there as well? All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode live from the Wholesale Link Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com. You're on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
We can see the Super League shit is actually kind of good. I'm making my Pooper League.
Okay. You go right. Is Tennessee in the Pooper League?
They are.
Oh, good. The best part is, like, I know 03 Chevy Tahoe's gotten a lot of play this week, but, like, it doesn't have Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Got Hal Gill, Predators radio analyst, coming up at 9:30. Looking forward to talking with him about the game last night. The big matchup for the Predators against the Chicago Blackhawks coming up tomorrow as well. And as always, taking your thoughts on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Joe Frank on the text line says, the Portland State coach sounded like Zach Galifianakis giving his lone wolf speech in Old School. Classic.
Nice.
Yes, it did.
Very nice.
That
Love
was
it.
good. Man, did you follow this guy on Twitter?
I just did. Jace,
yes.
Don't let me down, buddy. The first tweet that I see on his profile is blood, sweat, tears.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
I'm counting on a lot of excitement here. I got a Red Wings fan who got mad at me making a joke about the Wings putting up a banner. Yeah, it did the old 11 cups to no cups.
Yeah.
But they were just messing around. So
It's all good.
yeah,
All having fun here on the show today.
right. It's all just fun and games until you take the space heater in your car when it's 98 degrees outside, which Jace Coburn better damn well be doing this summer.
You better do it.
I don't. It's not just no AC. You better have a space heater with you.
That's right. There needs to be some accountability here from Jace Coburn as we move forward. Joe, someone who's not having a fun time right now has got to be Jerry Stackhouse at Vanderbilt. We talked about Scottie Pippen Jr. checking out his NBA prospects. Now, Dylan Dessou announcing that he has entered the transfer portal, not going to be playing at Vanderbilt. 15 points last year. I think led the SEC in rebounds with 9.2 per game in 17 games last season. He did miss the final 8 games because of an injury, and we talked about at the time what a gigantic loss that was for Vanderbilt and for Jerry Stackhouse. How big a deal is this loss for Vanderbilt and Jerry Stackhouse, and what do you think this means for that team next year, who look like, if these two were back, could be able to do something pretty good in the SEC? Could be a team to be reckoned with.
No, it's a killer. I mean, it's a killer. And, it's been a real good run for Stackhouse of additions.
Yeah.
Both, biggest recruits he's scored, that's for next year, plus in the transfer portal. Has been doing well. Picked up another player this week. On the coaching front, Ed Conroy, of course, Vanderbilt added 7-footer Liam Robbins from Minnesota, added Ed Conroy, who has been at Minnesota, has been a head coach, like a really good, experienced, seasoned college basketball coach to the staff, which is, I think, a good addition. And also Michael Curry, who, by the way, Michael Curry is like one of my favorite all-time players. He was a head coach for the Pistons, too, in Florida Atlantic. Like one of those, like, not that talented, but a great defensive, gritty player. I think that's a good add. So you're adding coaches, you're improving your staff, you're recruiting, you're in the portal, and now your best 2 players have left, and I just can't. I mean, this is the last place team in the SEC next year, right? On paper. I mean, this is going to be the last place. Now, we don't know with Pippen. Now, if Pippen comes back, then I still think it could be a really good team. That changes everything. But I did wonder when I saw Dessou in the portal, does that mean, is that some kind of a comment on Pippen? Because if I'm Dessou or another player on this team and I don't feel like Scottie Pippen's coming back, the point guard's coming back, the guy who runs the whole thing, I don't feel as good about team success. I don't feel as good about like my own play without that guy to get me the ball. But there's been reports out of Texas that there's heavy – now, remember, he's from Pflugerville, Texas, Dylan Dessou is, and that there's heavy interest. Chris Beard is taking over at UT, the other UT.
Let's be careful
The
here.
burnt orange UT. Sorry. And so it looks like this could be – in relatively short order, Dessou to Texas. And you know what? It also brings up the whole – this is the problem. If you're not just a mid-major, but if you're also like a low-performing Power 5 team and you have players like that, I mean, it's hard to keep them. And it's basically at least one-time free agency going on, which, again, I think needs to happen – but it's going to be tough, and it's tougher to have the model that Stackhouse wants, which is getting old with these teams and developing guys and having old teams. When someone rises up and plays like that, all of a sudden there's a lot of interest from a place that can say, hey, guess what? We go to the NCAA tournament every year. Also, you're closer to home. Also, we have the best facilities in all the land. Tough, man. It's tough. And I don't know that, Texas tampered or whatever with Dessou, but coaches have a way to get the word out to people. Do. I mean, let's be real here.
Smoke signals.
Yeah, there's lots of ways to communicate with people today.
So I'm glad you brought up Scottie Pippen Jr. because do you think he's ready to be an NBA player? Like I was kind of surprised that he went that route. I thought, coming back one more year, maybe he still does. I don't know. Maybe he's left that option still open for him, and maybe he's back in there. But I do wonder, to your point, with Dessou entering the transfer portal, maybe he knows something that we don't yet know about that decision. Do you think that Scottie Pippen Jr. is ready to play in the NBA right now?
No, I mean, if he were to go, he'd spend a lot of time in the G League. And I'll be honest, that may be the case regardless. Like, he's not gonna get taller, right? Probably not.
Well, probably not.
Well, probably
His
not.
dad did.
That's true. No, and listen, if Scottie Pippen got a couple inches taller, then I think it's a little different. His improvement is tremendous. He is a terrific player. I think his game, he's got to be a 40% plus 3-point shooter. He was a little bit erratic this year in that way. Now, he also did have thumb and wrist injuries on his shooting hand. You got to keep that in mind. I think someday he can be there. Is the way the game is played. Like, if you can be that good in the pick and roll as a point guard and you can shoot at a high level, and again, he creates. I mean, he's offensively, he's a marvel. I mean, but right now, no, I don't think he's ready. I don't think he would play significant minutes in the NBA. And of course, and look, Stackhouse said this when the season ended. It's not like, obviously, it's not like there's some pressing need for his family for him to go right now. I think it makes total sense for Pippen to check it out. No, why not? Why wouldn't you? You can come back. Why not check it out? It would be a killer for the killer scenario for Vanderbilt is he decides he's not going, but he decides to transfer somewhere else. That's a killer, not just for Vanderbilt. It's a killer for Stackhouse because, look, I think Stackhouse has answered some of the critics on recruiting, but I mean you also want to keep your players. Like the players, he's developed these guys. I'm watching Saban Lee in the NBA. Saban Lee transformed dramatically, and you have to give Stackhouse some credit for that in his 1 year with him. But if the top players don't want to stay and play for this coach, what does that mean? That's not good.
It's not good. And look, I think you've also got to remember in this conversation what he was walking into. I mean, you were 9-23 in your last year with Bryce Drew. You did not win a single game in the conference. So it was not in a great shape to begin with your program walking into it. But we are talking about 11-21 in his first year, 3 wins in conference. 9-16 his second year, 3 wins in conference again. Based on what we're seeing right now, and especially if Pippen's not back, it's probably not going to be pretty next year for Vanderbilt basketball either. Like, how much time should Jerry Stackhouse have to try to build this thing as they move forward here?
Well, I would argue I agree. First of all, if this is how it is, and those, I think Dessou, you can count them out. If Pippen's gone and they have a similar record, is that fireable? I wouldn't think so. And again, Bryce Drew, second year was a bad year, but he had Garland coming in. He had Simi Chateau coming in. And that really, and again, it's only year 2 anyway, but it sort of almost made that year like not count. And I'm not saying this would be the case, but because Stackhouse has those kids committed for the next year, I don't see any way he would lose his job before getting to coach them. I don't see any way Stackhouse doesn't get to have like a full roster of his players before he's in trouble with Candace Lee. I'd be shocked if that's the case. I think there would have to be something else, that happens, for that to be the case. But you're right. I mean, there's going to be in terms of public pressure. If that's the record, if it's another 10-20 kind of year or whatever, it's an ugly record. Yes, he inherited an 0-18. You have to keep that in mind. But it's still, like, publicly, Vanderbilt fans are going to be very unhappy. And that fourth year with those guys, and this is also the signing day. Signing day's in November. You got to hope they sign. You got to hope you hold on to those guys. But if you do, then I think certainly he would get at least a chance to coach them for a year. But this is, next year's team I thought was an NCAA team with Dessou and Pippen, and it's very much not without him on paper.
When the Preds have a weekday game this season, it's your chance to participate in Preds Pick to Click, brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka. If you guess a Preds player that scores a goal in the game that night, you will win a prize pack. The next chance to participate is tomorrow morning at 8:45. The Predators taking on the Blackhawks again at United Center tomorrow. We'll have that opportunity for Preds Pick to Click coming up at 8:45. When we come back, there's been a lot of talk lately in the last couple of days about a Super League forming over in Europe with soccer. What would that Super League look like in college football? Joe Rexrode's had a little fun with it. We'll do that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Be sure to tune in every weekday for your chance to win $1,000. It's the game's 1K payday. Listen for keywords at 9, noon, and at 3. And when you hear it, go to thegamenashville.com and enter the keyword for a shot at $1,000. That keyword coming up today here on Robby and Rexrode at 9 o'clock. So make sure you're tuned in for that.
Can I read a tweet that came at me last night?
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to read it in the proper voice. Can't wait for the Pro Stackhouse Joe Rexrode column after Vandy lost the only good players they had. Who was that from? Can you guess?
I'm going to guess Stillman by the way you said it.
Who now is he's texting me.
You're
of course.
not doing any favors for yourself for the people that say he gets in your head.
Hey, no, he's texting me. What am I
just
supposed
saying.
to do? What am
He's
I
in your
supposed to
head.
do?
He is in your head.
I'm just saying.
No, I'm in his head because Jared does this whole, the game's over and everybody's all over him. And I actually defended him. He wasn't the only one, right? There's
That's
no
true.
way. But he also, I mean, seriously, we have not made enough fun of him for this Forsberg is the floor take. Come on.
I mean, it's pretty bad.
That's such a ridiculous take. Oh, that's so stupid, Jared. Now he's texting me 1 week from the NFL draft, Preds meltdown last night, and what's Vandy Joe talking about at 8 a.m.?
Vandy
Go, Jerry, go! Because he's right. Last segment was a total Stackhouse cheerleading segment, wasn't it? Oh, yes, Jared. All right, he's in my head a little bit. Go away, Jared.
What do you think about Vandy Joe? Is that going to be
Oh,
your name
sure.
moving forward here?
Well, there's Tennessee fans that have thrown that at me at Twitter.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean,
You're hated by all fan bases and loved by all fan bases at the same time.
look, covering Michigan State forever. If you're a beat writer of a team, the fans of the rival team hate your guts.
Yeah.
Because most of what you write, I mean, especially if the team you cover is winning, is like positive
Hey, it's pretty
stuff,
good,
or
yeah.
it's features on a guy.
Yeah.
It's just like we had our Michigan beat writer, Mark Snyder, a good friend of mine at the Detroit Free Press. All the Michigan State fans like, Snyder is just a cheerleader. I'm like, he's like not even close to a cheerleader for the Wolverines. What are you talking? But he writes a bunch of stories about Michigan, so Tennessee fans notice anybody writing anything about Vanderbilt, and it's not the same level of rivalry, like in terms of it's not an equal rivalry. Well, I guess it kind of is actually.
It's in there, man.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. I mean, it's not like this long-term back-and-forth rivalry. But Tennessee fans, I do think have become more annoyed by Vanderbilt in recent years. One, the football stuff, and you get the baseball. But now Vanderbilt fans getting annoyed with Tennessee getting good at baseball. This is fun. This is what we want. And then there's
Rivalries are good.
And then there's people with horrific takes like Jared in the world, and they're part of the universe too. And you know what? He counts too. Jared, you still count too, buddy, because the floor for Ellie Tolvanen is Philip Forsberg. The floor.
Have you asked him what the ceiling
What
is?
an outrageous, idiotic take.
What's the ceiling?
I don't know. It's like a combination of
Gretzky?
Gretzky, Howe, and Lemieux. Probably, right?
so.
Some combo of those three.
Let's go to our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Nate texts in and says, I'm going as Joe Rexrode for Halloween this year. I don't know what that means, but thank you, Nate.
He's going as me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll give you a...
Is that in honor of you or to make fun of you? I don't know.
Well, I hope if you go as me, you are...
Charlie Weiss?
Wearing... Yeah. Hey, by the way... God, that's a killer, too.
Sorry.
I went... One time for Halloween, I went as George Perlis.
Did you?
Rest in peace, George Perlis.
Yes.
I did. That was actually in college, but I had the headset, and I put a pillow, like in... I was going to say, you might want to put the pillow in the shirt if you're going as me. But if you're going to go as me, you should have a We're Vibing Robbie shirt.
Yeah.
Because as soon as that comes in the mail, that
going on
thing's
there?
I might wear that every day in here. Might become my uniform.
Hey, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
Got to keep the vibe going strong here on the program. Speaking of vibe, a vibe disrupted the other day in the world of sports. Joe, did you see this? This idea of a super league being put together in English when it comes to, or in English, over in England when it comes to soccer. English, my goodness. The Premier League's
English
pretty
is
cool
good.
because obviously it's the biggest thing over there, and it's become bigger and bigger over here. People wake up on Saturday morning, Sunday morning to go watch some Premier League games, and it's been fun. I've watched a few of them with some soccer friends that I have, and it's fun. And one of the coolest parts about it is the relegation part of it. Like, if you're not good enough, you're going to get bumped down to a different league, and somebody else is coming up and taking your place. Like, we've talked about that before in terms of, like, should American sports, maybe at professional levels, adopt that mindset and have some relegation involved with their sports.
I can think of one SEC school. A lot of SEC fans would have liked to seen relegated many times.
Yes.
Sorry, Vandy Joe. I just ripped Vanderbilt. I'm sorry.
Yes. That is for sure.
Vandy Joe. I slipped up.
That has been brought up for sure. So the idea of this Super League was thrown out there where, You got teams, I mean, the big money makers. I mean, Manchester United was a part of this. Man City was a part of this as well. The teams that are bringing in just a ton of money to form their own league. There's no relegation there. It just is what it is, and they're playing each other all the time. Look, it would have been very popular. It would have been extremely profitable for what they do. It has, as of yesterday, has been suspended at this point. So I guess the idea of the Super League, not officially dead, but it has been suspended.
It's not going to happen.
It's probably not going to happen. There's been a lot of negative reaction to it. People like rioting in the streets over it over there as well. Not kidding. That's happened. So with all that being said, that's generated a lot of conversation. Andy Staples from The Athletic has talked about this as well, about what it would look like in other sports if a Super League was formed. So, Joe, let me ask you this. When it comes to college football, what do you think a Super League would look like? Who would be in it? Who would not be in it? And where does Tennessee kind of fall in the mix here with all that?
Well, Staples did, and it was a great idea by Staples to jump on this. He did his Super League. Now, first of all, let's. I've actually gotten, including from my wife's uncle, who we like to talk about sports sometimes. He asked, like, could this actually happen? You know, this Super League, and the answer is no. I mean, look, as Staples wrote in his piece as well, actually the opposite of this has to happen. College football needs more programs to be involved.
Yes.
And right now it's condensing. They need more parity. I don't know how you actually create more parity. I do think name, image, likeness could have a positive effect. We'll see. But Staples came up with his 15 programs that would be Super League. I think it's been long enough that I can just read this, right?
Sure.
Yeah, it's fine. It's been up for a while. So one of his controversial choices. So he all right, the obvious ones here, Clemson, Alabama, and Auburn. He also went Florida, Georgia, LSU, Michigan, Nebraska, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Oregon, Penn State, Texas, USC. So as he points out, so who would be enraged by this? First of all, he said Texas A&M would be the toughest one to leave out, but he said fans of Wisconsin, Michigan State, Florida State, Iowa, Oklahoma State,
Nebraska.
Yeah, and I know. Tennessee, Virginia Tech, Washington, and as he said, Tennessee 10 years ago makes the list instead of Clemson. Think about that. Like, Clemson has been so dominant that it feels like more than a decade, but it really has been a decade.
But there used to be the Clemsoning term.
Right.
They just screwed things up.
Well, that was early, even in the decade. Like, they were really good. They'd win 10 games, but they'd blow a game to Florida State or whatever it was. So, but it is crazy to think it's really basically been a decade that Clemson has become this absolute top 3 power in the sport. So, but I came up with what I'm calling the Pooper League, okay?
Okay.
Now, and some of them are the same, but these are, and I wanted to come up with 10, but I'm coming up one short of 10, which I think is fitting. But this is a league of programs that I think would still get huge interest, huge television revenue. People would want to watch these games, but these are the programs that have fallen off in college football. Okay. Well, I got 9. Let's just see if you can name. Let's see if you can name my 9.
Oh goodness. I mean, Tennessee's got to be on there, right?
Yeah.
Tennessee is on there for sure.
Nebraska.
Absolutely.
I mean, would Michigan not be on there?
Absolutely.
I was about to say, come on. I don't understand Michigan being at the top. So that's 3 right there. USC?
Yes.
Buddy. Texas?
Yes.
Let's see here. Going through the conference. Florida State?
I strongly considered Florida State. I'm not quite with them on the fall off totally yet. It's been rough for a couple of years, but they're not that far removed from winning it all, so I didn't include them in this.
Fourth, you got any guesses? I'm going through teams in my head. Oklahoma State?
So again, it's fallen off, but also would be big,
very interesting
revenue-wise. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, is there any more SEC teams in there?
There is one more SEC team in there.
One more SEC team. Would that be Texas A&M?
It is.
Yes.
And
you don't have them in the Super League?
And the thing is, well, some of them are the same.
Okay.
I mean, Nebraska and Michigan are in his Super League.
No, I'm going to say you don't have them in your Super League.
No, I didn't.
Got them in the Pooper League.
I only created a Pooper League.
I know.
By the way, I love saying the word poop, so this is already a great segment.
Thank you.
No, but Texas A&M, and the thing is, they haven't really fallen off as much as they just haven't really realized their potential ever. You know what I mean? But they have all the money in the world, and they've had some good teams, but that's another. So I'll finish it out. So also UCLA. So I got both the LA rivals, and Miami. That's my Florida entrant. And then I'm going my last team is Virginia Tech.
Okay.
A team that, then you get sort of the Eastern Seaboard going north a little bit. A team that's had a great history of Frank Beamer, but really has been quite mediocre for a while now. So then you sort of take the whole country. But it's amazing how many programs fit this category. And look, Tennessee, Michigan, Nebraska, those three programs in particular are like they have everything you would want, and yet they can't seem to figure it out for a long, long time. Tennessee and Michigan have a chance to get out of this. I'm not sure about Nebraska.
How close are USC and Texas to that conversation? How many more years?
We'll see. I think both of them are like Michigan in that there's no excuse. And I'm not saying there's an excuse for Tennessee. But Tennessee is in the toughest league.
Yes.
And Tennessee doesn't have quite the recruiting profile of some of these other programs. So there's a little bit more of a way to explain Tennessee being more like an 8-9 win program than but like those programs to me absolutely should be there. And again, Nebraska, because of how recruiting is today, I think they may have seen their better days. Like I still like Tennessee's long-term prognosis over Nebraska's.
Yeah. I mean, it's just got to be at this point so difficult to recruit in Nebraska too. I mean,
yes.
It's more of you're a national recruiting scale right now. When you're talking about Tennessee and all these SEC teams, Ohio State's recruiting all over the country, like it's just difficult to get kids to go to Nebraska now when there are all these other options. That's the fact of the matter.
Well, recruiting is very, very heavily. It's earlier. I mean, in normal times. Once we get back to normal, it's very early. It's very much the unofficials now. It's the early unofficials from freshmen, and because they can drive 2 hours, and no one's driving out to Nebraska for one of those like cookouts. Like that Ohio State has like every top recruit in the Midwest at a cookout on the field every summer.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't do the same stuff at Nebraska. You can do a lot of it at Tennessee. But they all make up my Pooper League.
Well, coming up next, we'll get your reaction to Joe Rexrode's Pooper League at 615-737-1025 on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll get to that next. Also, get to the NFL Draft 1 week away as well. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Reacting to Joe Rexrode's Pooper League that he's put together in response to the Super League conversation that's taken place in the world of sports this week. Joe, let's go to our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Got a texter that says, as an Oregon fan, I'd have to put Oregon on the poop list as well. I love how that's what it's referred to.
It's not poop, it's pooper, like super.
What do you think about Oregon being on the list?
Well, Oregon made Andy Staples, Super League.
He did.
And he said that was the last spot, and it was Oregon over Texas A&M. And he's right. One of the coolest programs in college. I think, to me, Oregon I consider them pretty good again. I know that they haven't gotten back to, the absolute heyday of, Chip Kelly / early Mark Helfrich, and may not get back to that, but it's still a pretty successful program. Cristobal's done well. To me, USC and UCLA are more the programs that should be good that aren't as good as they should be. I think Oregon is right where it should be.
Well, I think I agree with you, but I also think once those expectations have been raised and the bar has been raised and you've got the money from Nike in there as well, if you're an Oregon fan, I think you view it as, all right, this has all been great. What have they got to show for it in terms of winning a national title? I think that's what the expectation at one point was. Oregon, you got Marcus Mariota in there winning the Heisman Trophy, Chip Kelly changing college football during his first part of his tenure there with Oregon. And you never really got a national title to show for it. So maybe that's now the new standard at Oregon is the bar got raised so high that it's been hard to get back up and stay at that point consistently.
Yeah, but a lot of programs have these brief again, let's go back to Michigan State. They had a great run. They win the Rose Bowl. They got to the college football playoff. They beat Ohio State a few times, won the Big Ten, but that was I never thought they were going to sustain being a playoff team.
Yeah.
And they've gone way below that now. But, I guess I didn't look at Oregon as necessarily establishing themselves as they're just going to be every year knocking on the door. And Cristobal's gotten them back to where, they're pretty good again. Stanford's another program that, really has fallen off here of late if we want to pick on the Pac-12.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Chris texted in, do you put Oklahoma in the Pooper League? Because that's what they always do in the big games, poop themselves.
They do, but they're still making the playoff, They are a huge disappointment in the big moments. Especially, gosh. Baker Mayfield, they were just taking it to Georgia.
When you kind of think of Notre Dame in the same regard, too. They're putting themselves in the conversation every year, and then when they get to the playoff, they just get waxed for the most part.
That's a different league. I don't know what you call that league.
It's not the Pooper League.
But it's not the Pooper League. Those are if you're making playoffs and stuff, and you're in the top 10, then that's not this. So someone else come up with a good name for it.
The real Super League in college football is basically Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State. That's what the Super League currently is in college football. It's every year. Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson.
Yeah.
Just sad.
maybe
LSU
LSU
get more teams involved. Maybe LSU.
Yeah, maybe LSU can get, we'll see. We'll see if they can come right back. They put 78 players in the NFL 2 years ago. We'll see if they can if they can come back. Another text, by the way. Careful, Joe. Jared's going to get off his elliptical and send you a text if you don't calm down. I'm paraphrasing because I can't keep up with the text line. Oh, by the way, this is probably a bad idea for me to have access, isn't it?
Probably.
But here's a good one on what's his name? Jace
Coburn.
Jace Coburn.
Legend.
At least here's a text. At least he didn't do a Adam Gase and take a hallucinogenic before his press conference.
That's true. That is true. That was quite the press conference to remember from Adam Gase. And speaking of Adam Gase, former NFL head coach, the NFL draft 1 week away from tonight. Joe
what a
Rexrode.
transition there.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Joe, we've talked about the needs for the Titans taking a corner. I did a mock draft again yesterday on NFL.com. and Azeez Ojulari was left on the table. I took him at 22. Do we think the Titans could go edge rusher? We've talked about all these different needs. You bring in Bud Dupree and Harold Landry. Could this end up going back to the same place this conversation started with an edge rusher being selected in the first round by the Titans?
I don't think there's any doubt about it. I mean, it could be that doesn't count as a mute. No.
That absolutely counts.
I said I don't think there's any doubt about it. Did you not hear the words come out of my mouth?
You had a split
half the eye.
second without your mic on.
That was right. What?
Got him all flustered now. You got him all flustered.
I turn it off all the time. And that was just like a noise out of my mouth that you didn't want to hear anyway. That was perfect mute work.
I'll give you half a point.
I've already got Stillman with his hate texting this morning. I don't need it from you guys. Yes, I think they absolutely could go for an edge rusher if they love Kwity Paye and he's there. If they love Ojulari. Now I'm taking part in a top secret Athletic Writer 2-round mock draft right now.
Oh, this is going on right now. Okay.
Yeah, like my pick is coming up here.
Oh,
so
boy.
48 just got to. I can't sit here and say everything that happened in the draft. I will say, though, in this draft, Azeez Ojulari is long gone before he gets to the Titans.
Really?
Yeah. And you got him. You've got, again, I've seen some people have Paye, the kid from Michigan, go real high in this draft. No. Do they covet one of those guys? What about a Jalen Phillips? I mean, the medical on him is very concerning. He was told to retire from football, but is he a talent? My goodness. So he's had concussion stuff. He's had other stuff. Jalen Phillips, if he's there. I think there's multiple edge players that they could end up taking if they're there at 22 and if they're not out of that spot.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Ben text in, is there any truth to the Twitter buzz where an assistant Titans coach, quote, said it's 50-50 that a Titans could trade back in the first round? We've reached that time of season, baby.
I'm sorry, what? This is on Twitter somewhere?
Apparently.
Per who?
It just says, quote, an assistant coach.
Just a man. First of all, what does he know? He doesn't know how the draft's going to go.
Exactly.
I mean, what is 50-50? What does that have to do with that? I mean, doesn't it make sense?
John Robinson could have a plan right now, but that thing can change and will change on draft night.
Everybody's
got to have contingency plans.
Everybody's got a plan till they're hit in the mouth.
That's right.
Or no one will trade with them, and they ask every GM in the league, hey, anybody want 22? Nope.
I will say, to Ben's point, if there is somebody that wants 22, if I'm the Titans, I think there's a good chance that they would be interested in trading back for sure.
Yeah.
Depending on how the draft board falls. But
no question. Because I think a lot of the players that they would like, they can get a few spots back. Again, I don't want to give up my draft. I just want to say I've been a very crafty GM in this draft on the behalf of the Titans. And who knows? It's possible at 22, someone – I mean, but it's like within a couple picks of it is when it happens. And it's like, okay, we can get them. Let's go get them. If that happens, I think the Titans I would put it more than 50-50. If they had someone who came after them and gave them like a third-round pick.
I would agree. Stockpile those picks in the top 100, baby.
They also may have someone they covet at the right at the top of their big board available that they say, no, we have to get this guy. What if some of these receivers, we just talked about this during the break. What if one of these big three receivers is drifting way down the board? And it's like, okay, it would only take like a move of 3 or 4 spots to get one of them. That could be interesting too.
Absolutely could be. We'll continue the conversation on the draft when we come back. Got some of your thoughts to get to on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Also, some rule changes or tweaks made in the NFL yesterday as well. We'll discuss those next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Don't miss Nashville's best NFL draft coverage on Thursday, April 29th and Friday, April 30th on 102.5 The Game. Presented by Founders Brewery, Apple Collision Centers, Freedom Tire Guys, and MTGRT.com, your live and local mortgage expert. Be sure to join us on site as 102.5 The Game will be broadcasting live on Thursday, April 29th from 3rd and Home, Germantown's Bar with a Ballpark, and on Friday, April 30th from Boom Boss Craft Pizza and Tap House in East Nashville. Looking forward to that. The draft a week away. Jared Stillman, Mark Howard, Teron Davenport, Chris Sanders going to be a part of the crew breaking down the draft for the Tennessee Titans coming up the first round on Thursday night. So, Joe, here we are. I mean, this time next week, it's going to be draft day, and we'll have, a lot of excitement looking forward to that. This time next Friday, we'll know what the Titans have done or not done or traded or whatever they did in the first round.
Can't wait.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, it's time. It is time. There's this mock draft I'm doing now. I got another 7-round mock that I got to do.
7 rounds?
I got to do the full 7-round mock to run Monday. So
that's once you get into like round 5, that's got to be pretty tough.
No, it's very scientific.
Oh yes, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
After all the scouting that you've done,
yeah,
of all the prospects,
I will say I am a much smarter person about the draft thanks to Dane Brugler. So
there you go.
Should thank him every day. I just read his stuff on the air.
Let's go to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a texter that says, "What do you guys think about Joe Tryon? I've seen him everywhere from 20 to 120 on the board. That's a heck of a range. What do you think about him? Obviously, he played at Washington and did not play last season. He did have 8 sacks in 2019. You look at the measurables. I mean, he's 6'5", 262. He runs well. He's built like an NFL player. There's a lot to like about Joe Tryon. What do you think about that? Maybe being an option for the Titans. And if it is, where is it an option for the Titans? First round, second round, third round?
Yeah, I like him. And TD has talked about him too.
Yep.
As a guy maybe not getting talked about enough. Could they get a Joe Tryon at 53? Could they get a Joseph Asai from Texas, a guy I like a lot, at 53? I don't know. Now, there's another thing. You could move down in 1 and get another pick, and then maybe one of those guys, if they love one of those guys, and that's, it could be an edge, could be any of these positions. There's so many different ways to go, but maybe then you would have to move up in the second round and give that pick back to get exactly who you want. A lot of options at edge, a lot of options at receiver, a lot of options at corner. I still think there's a tier at corner.
Yeah, I would agree.
And that's why I've been doing all these mock drafts, and I swore I never have them taken a corner, but if like a Newsome were there, I think that'd be hard to pass up.
Oh, I think it would be too. I mean, I did a mock draft the other day where like J.C. Horn was there for the Titans. There's no way he's going to be there, right? There's no way J.C. Horn's going to be there.
I doubt it.
So,
a lot of teams need corners.
A lot of teams need corners, and he is a really, really good one. So got to keep that in mind. We brought up the possibility because it is interesting, and this was a big topic of conversation yesterday with Devontae Smith's weight coming out at 166. Does that scare some teams off from him? Does he slide a little bit in the draft because of it? Now, quite frankly, I think that's ridiculous. Just watch the guy play football. He's pretty good. He won the Heisman Trophy. I know he's at Alabama, but you're talking about the first half of the championship game between him and Ohio State was some of the best football I've ever seen. It was one half. He had 215 yards. It was unbelievable what he did in that championship game against Ohio State. He did it all season long for Alabama. So I get it. I mean, he's small. Do you worry about him getting hit coming over the middle and that really wrecking him and accumulating some injuries? Yes. But I think you worry about that to a certain degree with everybody. The bottom line is, can the guy play football or can he not? I know there's a lot of chatter, and it gets to this point every year before the draft. I would be surprised if Devontae Smith starts sliding down into the teens in this draft, which I saw some people talking about yesterday.
Yeah, I think there's probably some teams that don't like that. Someone did put up an interesting graphic yesterday, recent years receivers under 170, and very few of them panned out. I mean, Deshaun Jackson was the best one, but Marvin Harrison came in this league, I think, around 175. He turned out all right. And by the way, at a time when you could still destroy people over the middle and do things that you can't do now to defenseless receivers, and he turned out okay. I think Devontae Smith is going to be the exception here, not the rule.
Under the scenario that you threw out last segment, Joe, of one of the top receivers sliding, if the Titans were to trade up and get one of them, do you think it's more likely that Smith falls or Waddle falls?
Well, if you go,
Chase is going in the top 10 no matter what.
Yeah, he is.
Yes.
Jamar Chase, not Chase McCabe.
I think
Yes, thank you.
both should. He's the clear one. I've seen more of Waddle falling.
Yeah.
I like him a lot too. You know, I mean, I think both those guys. There's always the whole thing of you got this super team, and great, your quarterback stands there all day. Of course you're going to get open. And by the way, Waddle's on the other side of you, and Najee Harris is over here, and Devontae Smith's on the other side of you, Waddle.
I mean, heck, quarterback's going to be a top 3 pick maybe.
And the quarterbacks, I mean, yeah, you could knock all of them down for that, I guess. But I would feel probably best about the 2 receivers. Well, shoot, I mean, I love Najee Harris too, though. That guy's special. Someone's going to get him like late first, and he's going to be really good for that team. I've seen like some Dolphins buzz. Boy, how much would Tua love having Najee Harris with him? But I've seen more Waddle, but maybe this weight thing has them both falling. I don't know.
So let me ask you this. What would it take? Like, how far do either a Smith or a Waddle have to fall before you consider trying to trade up for him if you're the Titans? Like, what is – like, you're not trading up to number 8 and taking one of them. I mean, it's just going to cost too much draft capital at that point. How far would they have to fall before you have to say, all right, like, we need to go get Jalen Waddle right now if you're the Titans? Does that scenario even exist?
So, yeah, I mean, you know, who like, it's hard for me to imagine, like, I don't know, Arizona, for example. You know, like with Arizona, they're at 16.
Yeah.
You going to move up 6 spots to like beat them out, you know, to try to get your guy? I mean, I'm looking at the other needs. I don't think the Raiders will take a receiver at 17.
You never know with them, man.
But you never know. You know, the Dolphins, I mean, everybody can use more weapons, but who do you like?
Could be the Dolphins, though.
Could be the Dolphins.
Could be the Dolphins.
And where are they, 17?
So they're 18.
18.
So, you know, you could try to move up 5 spots. See if Gruden will. I mean, Gruden loves draft picks. He likes them better than great players.
He does.
You try to move up to 17, move up 5 spots to get one of those guys before Miami does.
I'd say the 15 to 17 range is kind of that sweet spot.
Yeah.
I still would. I mean, honestly, I would rather see the Titans stick or go the other way. But imagine one of those guys on the other side of A.J. Brown.
I know. I mean, it's got to be tempting if you're the Titans. If it gets that far, I'd be surprised if it got that far. I would. Like if one of those 3 slid all the way down there. Because, I mean, Jamar Chase, he's not making it out of the top 5, is he? Like Cincinnati's, Miami, he's not making it out of the top 6.
Top 6.
Yeah.
For Cincinnati to pass him up, that's got to be Penei Sewell, right?
Sewell,
It's got to be. It's got to be one of the 2.
Try to keep Joe Burrow, almost said Joe Rexrode, upright.
Try to keep me upright, too.
Yeah.
I keep getting hit with these text slobber knockers from Stillman.
That's right.
I mean, in this little draft that we're doing right now, so some of the guys who could maybe rise up and bump guys down would be like an Ojulari if someone loves him. Someone loves Jalen Phillips. I think J.C. Horn is going to go high. Like Micah Parsons is a guy who is very good. You know, he's probably going to go up there somewhere.
Could you see them trading up for J.C. Horn?
Maybe so. I mean,
possibly, but like I think he's going to go too high.
I've seen some people going 10 to like the Cowboys for J.C. Horn.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Cowboys are going to take a corner.
Yeah.
So do they prefer Surtain or do they prefer Horn? Now, if they prefer Surtain, now, okay, Horn's kind of in play, but there's other teams along the way who could use a corner too.
And also what happens in front? Like Atlanta's at 4. What do they decide to do? Like, are they trading back? There were reports the other day that maybe Carolina at 8 is considering trading back now that they've got Sam Darnold coming into the fold. So what happens in front of those teams too? I mean, I'm comfortable saying there's going to be some shuffling in the first round. There will be trades that are made.
Agree. And it wouldn't be surprising if the Patriots moved up
Yeah.
to get one of those QBs. But
Trey Lance, baby, going to New England.
that's interesting you say that.
Hey,
Because I'm looking at – no, I can't say – I can't give it away. I can't give it up.
You just did.
All right, I give up one pick.
Trey Lance is going to the Pats in the athletic mock draft.
there you go.
Stop it.
Thrown out there. When we come back, we will get back into the Nashville Predators. A meltdown in the third period last night against the Chicago Blackhawks. What does it mean for the big picture for this Predators group as they move forward here? That coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode live from the wholesaling studios powered by RumbleOn.com here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Final hour of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Predators radio analyst Hal Gill will join us at 9:30. Looking forward to that conversation with him. We'll get into the craziness of last night's game and look ahead at a massive game for the Predators coming up tomorrow at United Center against the Blackhawks as well. That coming your way at 9:30. Taking your thoughts all show long on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Joe, it was really an interesting game last night from the standpoint of it was basically the tale of two different teams. You got a 4-1 lead that you built up if you're the Predators, basically a buzzer beater by Granlund to end the second period to make it 3-1. They come out and quickly strike in the third period to make it 4-1. A beautiful play from Yossi to Granlund to Luke Cunnin. It's 4-1. The Predators are well in control of the game. And honestly, like I thought up until that point, that had been one of the better games they've played all season. I mean, they had a ton of quality looks. They were hard on the puck. They were difficult to move the puck against in their own zone. Malcolm Subban, I thought, was incredible for the Blackhawks in goal last night, and gave up 4 goals. I thought he still played pretty well. And then the wheels fall off. Patrick Kane makes a great play to make it 4-2 on a pass there. Roman Yossi blocks the shot. He's a little hobbled. Give Kane some room. He makes the pass. It's 4-2. And then the wheels fell off for the Predators. Defensive zone coverage breakdowns in front of your own net, breakdowns with puck management, not holding on to the puck, turning the puck over behind the net. All things that could go wrong seem to go wrong for the Predators. It's 4-4, and then you lose 5-4 in overtime. So all in all, like you look at the complete picture of it and the result, like if you would have told me last night before the game, hey, the Preds are going to lose this game in overtime, I'd be like, all right, well, that's not ideal, but you get the point. You've got an opportunity to get 5 out of 6 if you win on Friday. I think you'll take that every time. But the fashion in which they lost that game, I don't know how you can view it as anything but negative. That's a point that you just threw away last night.
Yeah, look at the point you lost. It's not the point you gained. You can call that glass half full or a little too doomy and gloomy, but you had 2 points in your pocket. You were dominating a team you've dominated all year. Like you said, it was a great performance, and then just a meltdown. I don't know what other collapse and good plays by the Blackhawks. You watch those plays, and sometimes like you watch hockey, it's like, how does this not happen more often? Because it's very easy to just be a little bit off and have a little miscommunication, and all of a sudden, boom, a guy's alone in front of your net. But for it to happen 3 times in 2 minutes, 51 seconds was stunning. And John Hines tried to take a timeout in the middle of that once they gave up the 2, and then they come right out, make another mistake. Ryan Ellis gives it up, and you've got a guy alone in the slot who has the puck before Saros even knows he has the puck. He buries it. He went high. He could have picked a lot of spots. It was a great shot, but I mean, you were toast at that point.
Yeah, and it was, just breakdowns galore. I mean, on the third goal that Hinostroza scores, you've got, the Blackhawks entering the zone, and Ellis and Ekholm kind of converge on the same guy, and that leaves Kirby Dach wide open on the wing. He makes the play back to Hinostroza in the middle, and you've got a tap-in goal at that point. We've talked about the mistakes behind the net. Ryan Ellis turns the puck over, trying to rim it around to Matthias Ekholm on his backhand. It's turned over. There's no one in front to pick up Kubalik coming in from the slot. Duchesne and Haula are both kind of drifting towards the corner, and nobody's picking the guy up in front of the net. It's a great shot by Kubalik, but, I mean, there's not much Saros can do there. And then in overtime, you get beat on a play where I think that's of the goals given up, that's probably the one that I think Saros would probably want back. Came off the post, I think, a little too quick there, maybe thinking he was going behind the net. But all in all, just a meltdown for the Predators in the third period after they played really, really well. And, I mean, that has a huge impact on the standings. Here we are. The Predators get the point. You're at 52 points, 48 games played. But now Dallas has 3 games in hand on you. They're at 50 points, only 2 points to make up. And the Blackhawks were really, I mean, the 47 games played, 49 points, they're 3 points behind you. If you win that game in regulation last night, you got up to a 6-point lead. You could pretty much bury them at that point. I mean, they were I mean, even now on moneypuck.com, who kind of breaks down statistics on the playoffs and the percentage chances, and the Blackhawks, I mean, they have a very small chance now anyway with the win last night. They're at 4.9%. You could have effectively buried the Blackhawks last night, and now you've kind of let them have some life, maybe some belief against your team, and I'm very interested to see how that could carry over into tomorrow's game for the Predators against the Blackhawks, a gigantic game at United Center.
Yeah, you're on your way to a 6-point lead over them. You still have a 5-point lead if you find a way to win, which this team is mostly done this year once you get past the 60-minute mark. But instead it's 3, so they're back in there. But, yeah, the bigger threat is Dallas, I think. I think Dallas is the better team. Dallas is getting healthy. And the Preds have controlled the Blackhawks for most of the time they've played them this year. Can they just go right back to doing that Friday? This is going to be a very telling, performance and response. It's not just because last night can just be a point and can be what you said about going into the game. If you were told, okay, overtime lost, okay, well, got a point, go back and try to beat them Friday. This can be that, or this can be the turning point in a bad way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's on the team now to make sure that they respond in the right way. And, I look at the game last night. From an execution standpoint, it's Ellis, it's Haula, it's Duchesne, it's Ekholm, it's Yossi earlier in the game. Even though he played a heck of a game, I thought. I mean, making mistakes that you just can't make in some key areas of the ice. Like how often, thinking back to the first goal for the Blackhawks, how often do you see Roman Yossi kind of get hemmed into a corner trying to get out of the zone and turn the puck over? Like maybe once every 12 games. Like it doesn't happen very often where that happens. And then you gift wrap a goal for the Blackhawks doing that last night. Like regardless, you're up 4-1. You need to find a way to close that game out. But there were some key mistakes at key times from veteran guys who've played a lot of hockey in this league.
Yeah, and it's surprising on two fronts. One, the Preds have been so responsible and locked down and just cohesive. They just haven't given up a ton. As well as UC Saros has played, a lot of that really it's how the guys have played in front of them. And two, Chicago in particular, 5-on-5 has been miserable trying to get anything going against the Preds. Miserable all year.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like, hey, goal, goal, goal. Like what? I mean, it felt like the entire season's worth of their 5-on-5 success against the Preds, and they matched it in less than 3 minutes.
And there was some reaction on Twitter last night, like blaming the refs for what happened, like missing an interference call on Nick Cousins, which I went back and watched. I mean, you're talking about very, very minimal contact. It's never going to get called. Missing some tripping calls. Like, if you're blaming the refs for last night, I got news for you. It's not the Predators have nobody to blame but themselves for what happened last night.
I mean, that's beyond a reach.
Yes,
that's like Tolvanen's Flores Forsberg type of reach. I mean, really, and that is a reach.
Well, I mean, let's go on and bring it out there. We got response on Twitter. Michael on Twitter says they blame Stillman for the game last night. I mean, Stillman, and he was not alone. He basically tweeted that the game was over when it was 4-1, and that you were moving on to Friday. Not to get too cocky about Friday's game, and then it comes back and Chicago wins, and just because it's him, there's a lot of reaction directed at Jared Stillman. The Preds official Twitter account tweeted him last night and said that he was blocked. How much blame does he deserve for this loss?
Again, I'm not really concerned about this game is over stuff. Tons of people were doing that. I thought the same thing. I don't care about that. The fact that Ellie Tolvanen gets a gimme because of an incredible Arvidsson play, a guy Stillman, very, very well documented, Jared's bad analysis on Arvidsson.
Yes.
And then his Stackhouse tweet, that's a bigger problem. Okay. Those are the big.
I just want to rank them.
By the way, Justin Beasley just liked the tweet. Can't wait for the Pro Stackhouse to Rexrode column that their Vandy lost the only good players they had. Beasley and Stillman need to have like a takeoff. They got to be the two biggest hot takers in the market, right? Like who's
Yeah. I don't know.
Got hotter takes than those two?
Beasley's got some hot takes.
Oh. And don't you ever Talk about Rick Stockstill.
Yes, we did learn that for sure. 102.5 The Game and T-Mobile have teamed up to give away a hockey home gating party. Text the word GAME to 615-737-1025. That's GAME to 615-737-1025 now to enter for a chance to win a Dos Equis prize pack, which includes a case of beer, dessert from Nothing But Cakes, a T-Mobile prize pack, and food provided by 312 Pizza Company in Germantown. You must be 21 or older to enter. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion on the Nashville Predators. How much did last night's loss affect the way you view the big picture of this team? How big of a hit did their playoff chances take with that meltdown in the third period? We'll get to all that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Preds fans, join 102.5 The Game on Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m. for Smashville Live, featuring Preds players, former players, and other special guests. You can also watch the show online via 102.5 The Game's Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and theGameNashville.com. Smashville Live brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka, Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, and Red Spirits and Wine in Bellevue. To view or listen to past shows, go to theGameNashville.com/Smashville Live. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch. The Predators, a tough loss, 5-4 in overtime to the Blackhawks last night after the Preds had a 4-1 lead in the third period. The Blackhawks scored 3 goals in 2 minutes and 51 seconds to tie the game up at 4. And, Joe, really the amazing part is they scored those 3 goals, and then Victor Arvidsson takes a high sticking penalty where you've got a 4-minute double minor. And I thought to myself, my goodness, they're about to come out and lose this game in regulation because that power play for Chicago has been lethal all season long. You've got DeBrincat, you've got Kane out there. There's a lot of weapons that they have on the power play. And then the Predators come out with maybe the best penalty kill they've had all season long and settle things down. But it looked like it could get really hairy there for a second after being tied 4-4. Immediately after the face-off, taking a penalty from Arvidsson, double minor for high sticking.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be 4 goals in 4 minutes or so, and just see ya. Get out with nothing. That's the thing. They finally responded at that point.
Yeah.
And then you lose in 3-on-3. This team usually wins in 3-on-3, but it's not hard to lose in 3-on-3. And that was the one that, like, you'd hope Saros could find a way. But, gosh, you did a lot of damage to Saros last night.
Did a lot of damage to him last night, that's for sure. And now the question is, how do you respond if you're the Predators as you move forward here? The playoff odds after last night read as this. This was updated on moneypuck.com at about 2:30 this morning here locally. The Dallas Stars, a 57.6% chance to make the playoffs. The Predators at 37.5%. Right now, the Blackhawks with a 4.9% chance to make the playoffs. So I mentioned it before. You could have effectively buried the Blackhawks last night.
Yeah, what would it have been? 0.8%?
Yeah, maybe somewhere around there. So you let them back on the hook, but still the bigger threat is Dallas. Now, Dallas, they've got 2 more against Detroit this week. They've got 3 against Tampa still left on their schedule, 2 against Carolina, 1 against Florida, and, oh, by the way, a head-to-head here in Nashville as well against the Predators coming up on May 1st. So still a lot left of this story to be told. Wouldn't hurt to get some help for the Red Wings at some point, although I think if you're the Predators, probably can't comment on that or can't count on that.
You may not want to comment
on it either.
Yeah, that would be helpful. But I will be a little bit surprised. The way the Stars are playing, they've got to be – I mean, they've got to be sensing it right now. You know, they got a chance to get into that spot after all they've been through. I mean, they were down – well, they were around 7th place for a while, right? I mean, they were really struggling, and they're surging at the right time. So it would be a pleasant surprise for the Preds if the Red Wings could get a regulation win here.
So we had Predators head coach John Hynes join us earlier on the show and talked about kind of what it's like now for the Predators as they enter into meetings today, practices today, getting ready for the game tomorrow against the Blackhawks. What's the message after losing the game in the fashion that they lost it last night in Chicago? Here's what Predators head coach John Hynes had to say.
This is a situation, we played a good hockey game, we made mistakes, okay, we didn't win the game. But in playoff-type situations, right, you have to move on to the next game. You could lose, how many times in playoffs you see a team lose 5-0 and come back and win the next game, right? You have to be ready for the next one. So I think this is a great opportunity to really see the mental toughness of our group. I think we've really worked at it. I think we've gotten a lot better, but what better way, right, to come in and say, okay, if we're going to get in the playoffs, we're going to have to continue to win some big games. We may not win every game, but we're going to have to really respond when we don't win, which is a great opportunity tomorrow. And if you get into the playoffs, well, you're not going to win if you're not a mentally tough and emotionally tough group that can respond to adversity or a tough loss or a big win, right? To me, it's no different than responding after a big win. Do you let off the gas and the other team's hungrier? These are all those little things I think really makes a team extremely competitive. And to me, it's a great challenge. That's what we're going to talk about today, and I'm excited to get to see where our team's at tomorrow and get them ready for it.
So that was John Hynes joining us earlier in the show, talking about the message to the team. He's talked a lot about mental toughness ever since he got here. Seemed almost excited about like the challenge ahead for this Predators team, saying, look, you're going to have to be mentally tough just to get to the playoffs. If you can't respond in some of these situations, you're not going to get there. So this is a huge test and a huge opportunity now for the Predators to do that and to move forward after a gut-wrenching loss last night.
Yeah, no coach wants that to happen. Some coaches may use losses in a positive way, but this is not the time of year for that stuff. I mean, I think John Hines would much rather be pointing out some of the mistakes after a close win, maybe after they let it get to 4-3. But he's right. I mean, this is a mental toughness test. One thing we forgot to really, or at least I forgot because I was going to ask him about, was the goaltending situation. Even though to me it's not a question, it's still something that is going to be asked of him and I think is worth putting on the record. I mean, I don't think there's any consideration of Pekka Rinne right now.
I don't know why there would.
I think Pekka Rinne should get one of the back-to-back games coming up against Florida Monday, Monday or Tuesday. But
the number one reason you're in this position, and it's number one by a pretty healthy margin. Yes, there have been the players have played differently. The forecheck's been great. Young players have played awesome. The number one reason that you're in this position right now, where you've even got a shot at making the playoffs, is your goalie. It's UC Saros. Like that is the reason that you're in the position that you're in right now. So I saw some chatter last night after the game about, well, they should have gone with Saros or should have gone with Pekka in this game, and you're running Saros into the ground, and now he's falling apart, and he's tired out there. I don't know how you could watch that third period last night and what happened and say, oh, yeah, that was UC Saros. Should have stopped some of those. I mean, you're talking about backdoor tap-in goals and a shot from the slot with no one covering you. I mean, to me, goaltending was the furthest concern from my mind last night, watching the Predators unravel in the third period.
Like, there's always going to be someone who just sees the puck goes in the net, so it was the goaltender's fault. Okay. Now, I also heard the John Hines has been running Saros into the ground.
Yeah.
Which, again, this was not a goaltender fatigue. The team collapsed. The Preds collapsed around Saros. I mean, you can look at all three of those goals. There were crucial mistakes made that you can't make, especially when you're protecting a lead, at this time of year. I mean, all of it. You can't do it. This wasn't tired Saros. It was no chance having Saros, okay? And our friend Jay Levin, I respect his opinion a lot on hockey. He's talking about, like, the Blackhawks have the book on Saros. You need to change up. No. He has been the best goalie in the league. You don't change from the best goalie in the league. Again, NBC Sports last night puts up all the Vezina stuff for Saros, which then goes up in smoke, basically, with that finale, because that's just how it is.
It's going to be tough anyway.
It's still on it. Yeah, sure. It was going to be. But it was like, boy, what if they go on a roll and he stays up around those numbers? At least some kind of, like, a finalist? I mean, that's pretty incredible on its own. But these goals are on his record, but you can't possibly watch that stuff and think that this is a goaltender or the use of the goaltender that should be discussed. I mean, it's the easiest choice in the world on the lineup. 19 guys, the first thing you do is that.
Well, the bottom line, you need your players to keep their heads about them when situations, when things are starting to unravel. Like the 4-2 goal, I have less of a problem with that one, the one to make it 4-2. It's Yossi blocking a shot. Kane gets some space. Yossi tries to close the gap. It's too late at that point. He makes a great pass. Should Hall have had better coverage? Yes. But it's a great pass by Kane. It was executed perfectly. I think that's one of those ones you just tip your hat to. I have no clue what they were doing on the other two goals. Ekholm and Ellis converging on the same guy when it's 4-3. Behind the net, Ellis turning the puck over. There's not a soul in front of the net in the slot. Like, those are mental mistakes that they've not been making very consistently as of late, and that's how – I mean, you're playing your system to a T. You're not beating yourself. That's a big part of the game in hockey. The Predators beat themselves last night, and those are the type of things that you can't have happen this time of year when you're in a playoff race that is very likely going to go down to the wire here with the Stars.
Now, I will say this on the goaltending aspect of this, and this is why sometimes coaches, I think at different parts of the game, would take a goaltender out for a stretch like that. 3 straight, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Is that sometimes when it does get past a goaltender a certain amount of times, you do wonder a little bit about confidence. And so this is a big game for Saros too. I mean, it's not like it's totally established that this is going to be how he's going to play the rest of his career. He's on the hottest streak of his career. But you hope that this does not affect him adversely, because if he has a rough night Friday, now it's like not only did the team, lose something in this meltdown, but maybe you damage your goaltender psychologically.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Doug texted in, I believe John Hines has been the main reason for the Predators' successful season so far. Boy, that's a lot different from text we were getting about a month and a half ago.
It sure is. I think he
I
deserves
think he deserves
credit.
a lot of credit.
Of course he deserves credit. And, yeah, I mean, look, this is a test for him too. If they come out and whatever he does today and tomorrow and they come back and just control Chicago like they have most nights this season, that speaks to them being able to bounce back, but it speaks to him and his messaging.
When we come back, we'll be joined by Predators radio analyst Hal Gill. We'll get Skillsy's thoughts on the game from last night and how you respond to a game like that coming up tomorrow against the Blackhawks. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee, discussing all things Nashville Predators. And to help us do that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Preds radio analyst Hal Gill, presented by Duncan, featuring their new location in Belmead, and TriStar Moving, TriStar Movers with 5-star service. Skillsy, what's going on, brother? How we doing?
Doing great, guys. I'm a little whiplash after last night, but it's a new day.
It is a new day. What did you think of the kind of the meltdown there in the third period? What happened from your vantage point? How did the Predators kind of allow the Blackhawks to get back in it and ultimately take over the end of that game?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can look at it a few ways. You can look at it as a meltdown, and you can look at it as a desperate team in the Blackhawks that were doing everything they could to stay relevant. That was, I think they were probably looking at that game as a make or break, and they went full attack, and they went for it. And, I think the Preds gave up too much in the middle, especially in the middle of the ice. When you sense that coming around, you call the timeout and you kind of build up a fort and you say, okay, they're coming. We got to be able to batten down the hatches, and they just couldn't do it. They just couldn't keep everything to the outside. I will say, in the end, you take a deep breath and you look at it. You kill off a 4-minute power play from Chicago, and you say, they found a way to get a point because that was cycling fast downwards. And they were able to stop it, and that could have easily been a couple goals to ice the win for Chicago. So I think you take a little solace in the fact that you did get that kill and got a point.
Yeah, no, we talked about that earlier. I mean, it looked like it might be about 4 goals in 4 minutes there based on how things were going, and that was a huge kill. But during that 2 minutes and 51 seconds, Hal, anything in particular like you said, Chicago's on the attack, mistakes are made in this game. You've talked about this before. It's a mistake game. But anything in particular that surprised you on the Preds side of things in terms of some of the mistakes made there?
Yeah, it's tough. I feel like a lot of times, it's all about execution, right? And I feel like the Preds had the execution where they were splitting the D and working D to D and moving it up the ice. And then a couple little adjustments where Chicago was taking away those D-to-D plays, and I feel like the Preds were too spread out. And when the Preds are having success, I think they learned it on that long road trip with all the injuries. They're really packed in 5 guys together. And so if you do make a mistake, if you do bobble a puck, you have support. And they kind of let that support get away from them. And a good team, some good players, good young players that are just going with everything they got can close time and space, and they created turnovers, and then they attacked, and the Preds were still spread out. And so you're going to go through spells like that where, the execution isn't there. And, sometimes I look at it and say, geez, so they just keep firing it and icing it and slowing the game down. And I wish they'd make plays and ice off this win the right way. But other times you say, guys, you just got to get it out. Make the hard play, move it out, and keep battling. And they just got away from them. And it's a quick game, and it's 2 pretty good teams out there that are battling. And so the Chicago, for that span of time, was a better team, faster team, and took advantage of those little miscues and the lack of support.
So how inside that locker room today, I mean, they know what the standings look like. They know how big this game tomorrow against Chicago is going to be. When you lose a game in the fashion that they did last night, when you got a 3-goal lead in the third period, as a player, is that difficult to kind of flush away? Is it easier to move on from because of the circumstances and the standings and all that? Like, how do you go about handling a loss like that if you're a player?
Yeah, it's funny because I'm sitting there, putting on my skates, saying I'm in that locker room, and I'm looking around Twitter, and I love it. Everyone, it's natural knee-jerk reaction to say that span of time could have cost the playoffs, and it's like the media is going to say that, everyone's going to say that, and they know that, but at the same time, there's a bunch of spans throughout this whole season that could have cost them the playoffs, and big chunks where they were not playing well. I think as a player, I'm looking at it going, hey, we got a point out of that game. We're better than that. We know we can't have those letdowns. So we got to go out and practice and do things the right way and work on things, go over it with video and be ready to play the next game, because the longer you sit and look back and say, oh, that could have cost us the playoffs, the more you're not focusing on the next game. And so good players, great players will forget the shift before and keep going and making the plays and not really changing their game and not losing their confidence because of a little miscue. And that's the kind of mentality you have to have, is moving on. Let's get this game on Friday, and let's set this ship right and go back to work. And so I think that's a mindset that you have to have, and I'm sure they're talking about it, saying, all right, this is what happened. This is how we fix it. Now let's move forward.
Well, and speaking of, media reaction, fan reaction, inevitably, Hal, when something like this happens, someone's going to look at the goaltender and say, oh, maybe he was tired or whatever the case may be. And we've talked a lot on this show today. I mean, I don't see how much of an opportunity Saros had on any of those three in the third period. But what about the confidence aspect of that? Just a goaltender who has been playing so well, all of a sudden seeing three in the back of the net that fast and a game flipping like that. Like, do you worry about that at all? The confidence that has obviously been so high for him.
Well, I think it's natural to worry about it, but I think goalies, they're weird people anyway. They have to have that mentality that it's over, it happened. You look at it and you say, what did I do wrong? In the end, you have to learn from it, but it's not like, oh my God, I can't play hockey anymore. I'm awful. And you let the confidence slip. You look at it and you say, what did I do wrong? Was it a 5-hole? Was my glove in the wrong position? Defensively, I'm looking at it like I should have blocked that shot. How could I have blocked it? And did I make the right play? And then you say, okay, I did the right thing and it didn't work out, which I think is what Juice is probably going to look at and say, yeah, they had a guy in the slot, the pass comes behind the net, and you're doing whatever you can to just get a body part on it. I don't think he's going to look at it and say, I blew the game. I think he's going to say, hey, I'm going to find a way to come up with a big save when the team needs me, and I'm not going to get that save if I'm sulking about the last game. And so a short memory is what you need, and you go back out, and I'm sure Juice, he's done it before, and, he's got Pex helping him out. Pex is one of the best, if not the best, at responding after a loss. And so I'm sure that's going to be talked about, and this is how you go out and play, and this is how you perform after a loss.
Preds radio analyst Hal Gill on the line with us, brought to you by Duncan and by TriStar Moving, TriStar Movers with 5-star service. Hal, I watched the game last night. It's interesting. Like, everybody's focused on the way that it ends, and I understand that. That's the only thing that matters this time of year. But, I mean, before whatever happened in the third period, you're playing, I thought, one of the best games they've played all season long. I thought Subban in net for Chicago was fantastic. I know you look at the box score, he's given up 4 goals. I thought he was outstanding in that game. The Predators probably should have, at least could have scored 7 or 8 before that even happened in the third period. So I think you've got to take that from the game as well. As much as you're focused on the negative aspect of it and trying to right that wrong coming up on Friday, still a whole lot of things offensively that you did well that I think you feel good about heading into the matchup tomorrow.
Yeah, and it was almost, that's the thing about the NHL is it can turn around pretty quick. They had that game in complete control. They were doing everything right. Even when they weren't doing things right, they were in the right position defensively to support each other. And then all of a sudden, maybe you get a little complacent. You say, hey, this is okay. We got this game. And you look at the start of the third period, and I thought the Preds said, yeah, this is our game. And a lot of times the beginning of a period, you get a push from a team. They come out of the locker room all fired up. This is our moment. And you shut them down and you say, okay, good, we got them. And they're going to roll over. Well, Chicago didn't roll over. So you got to play the 60 minutes. They know that. It's a tough game. And if it goes, I guess I should say 65, that being the case last night. But you got to battle through those little things, and you got to stay focused. And if you lose focus, for just a second, momentum shifts, and then all of a sudden it's like an avalanche pouring at you, and that's what happened. So, you get back to it, focus on all the good things that you did early in that game because they were dominating, and I really, you're right, Subban was fantastic for that whole game.
A little bit off topic here, but Hal, if someone says to you that Ellie Tolvanen's floor as a player is Philip Forsberg, what comes to mind?
I heard someone talking about that, and there's some things you just don't listen to. You just don't listen to things like that because it's nonsense. Every player is their own thing, and I've seen a ton of great players fall apart at certain points in their career. I've seen a bunch of players that weren't any good, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, they just put it together, and it clicked. The fun part about being a player is that you don't have to listen to anything. You go out and, if you want to use it as motivation, you might be Phil Forsberg here and that going, what are we talking about here? I gotta throttle down and use that as motivation. But for the most part, you're trying to be the best player you can be. And sometimes you surprise yourself. Other times you get a new role because you're not quite the skilled player that you thought you were. So that's nonsense to me. I don't listen to that. I think every player is going to write their own story, and whether what your floor is or what your ceiling is, it depends on what you're playing and how you're playing. And so, you don't listen to that, please.
Hal's way nicer than we are.
That's right. Preds radio analyst Hal Gill has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode.
Was that a good way to answer that?
That was very nice.
Very nicely done.
Yeah. Very diplomatic.
There's some things you hear that you just can't give any credit to because they come out of left field from someone who's not in the game,
There you go. Hal Gill, presented by Duncan, featuring their new location in Belle Meade and TriStar Moving, TriStar Movers with 5-star service. Skillsy, appreciate you taking time to join us this morning, brother.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Hal.
When we come back, we'll react a little bit to what Hal had to say there. Also, got some tickets to give away for Nashville SC coming up on Saturday as well. All that next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Pro Golf is coming to Nashville this May with the Simmons Bank Open. Text the keyword golf now to 615-737-1025 for a chance to win a weekend pass for 4 to enjoy the event in style, including food and drinks, plus a Predators gift pack, including polo shirts, golf balls, and an umbrella. Text golf to 615-737-1025 and enter to win. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Thursday morning, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. And as we've done every day this week at 9:45, it's time to give away some tickets to see Nashville SC take on CF Montreal coming up at Nissan Stadium on Saturday at 1 o'clock. Ryan Porth, do you have today's trivia question on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com?
We're going to have to figure out what we're going to do tomorrow.
I know.
With the timing of it, because we have free Beer Friday trivia at 9:45.
Might have to mix it up a little bit.
May have to do 8:45 tomorrow for Nashville SC tickets.
More trivia, the better.
Got Preds Pick to Click at 8:45.
You excel
Can't do that,
trivia.
so we'll figure it out.
Well, yeah, we can. We did that yesterday.
Okay, we'll do it.
All right, 8:50.
We just figured it out.
8:50 or so.
There you go.
This, peel behind the curtain on show planning.
There you go.
So, yes, this is the trivia question for Nashville SC tickets for Saturday afternoon's game against Montreal. The Premier League, there's been a lot of talk about the whole European Super League, which led me to having a trivia question for the Premier League overseas.
Okay.
Which club has the most all-time top division titles in the Premier League?
Which club has the most all-time top division titles in the Premier League? If you know the answer, text into our text line, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
I think I know.
You can win some tickets to see Nashville SC take on Montreal coming up at Nissan Stadium at 1 o'clock on Saturday. So looking forward to that.
Joe, you basically just said, I think I know, but I may not know.
Right. It's like you take the positives and you take the negatives.
That's right.
You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have. Anyway, can anybody finish this?
That was good. No, I cannot.
You can't finish
I have
this?
no clue what you're talking about.
Somebody on the text line, finish what I just did. It'll be fast. I promise you.
You can run it every snap or you can throw it every snap, right? It's my belief that you probably need to be able to do both.
It's a good
point. There you go.
How'd that guy get fired? It's a good point, man. You ought to be able to do both.
Offensively, the name of the game is scoring points.
You're going to be looking at a real big season for the New York Giants coming up. When you factor in Adoree Jackson getting paid $45 million per year and then Jeremy Pruitt coming into the fold, it's going to be special in New York.
I can assure you that the gap is closing.
That gap is closing in the NFC East.
We're going to miss that guy. We're not going to get too many sound bites. I don't imagine there'll be a lot of interview requests for
I don't know.
Big J Pruitt.
That accent in New York City, there may be an interview request every day.
It could be maybe like a man on the street interview after he comes out of the Red Lobster in Times Square.
Yes, asking what asparagus is.
Poor guy. By the way, speaking of poor guy, I tried to get Hal to join us in ripping Jared, but good.
You
for
brought
Hal.
him up,
Hal
I
took
think,
the high
every
road.
segment today.
I did not.
I think you brought him up every single
I wasn't
segment.
bringing
He's
him up.
in your head.
He
Dude,
is in your head.
No, I wasn't even bringing it up until he started texting me. It's not in my head.
He is in your head.
Stop it.
Let's go
No.
back to the text line.
He's in my
Driven
face
by Wilson
with his
County-
dumb takes.
Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. CC text in. Something crossed my mind last night, and I heard you guys mentioning Saros' stats earlier. Everyone's so quick to point out the Predators have all these wins against Chicago and Dallas and Detroit, but this is also how Saros has accumulated his wins. How would he stack up against a loaded Avalanche or Blues team as the starter? How would he stack up against the regular Central Division during a normal season? It's a fair question.
Sure.
I mean, nobody's stacking up all that well against Colorado right now, so you've got to factor that into it as well. But, I mean,
Yeah, if he was facing the very top of the league every night, he probably wouldn't have the same numbers. I would definitely agree with that.
sure.
By the way, Kelton, John from Clarksville, unnamed 731 number. Boom. Everybody comes in with the facts of life. You take the good, you take the bad.
There you go.
You take them both, and there you have the facts of life. 80s gold.
You know, I was born in 92.
I understand that.
Okay.
You're kind of an old soul, though. Vingan knows all the 80s stuff.
Just checking with you. Vingan was born in the 80s.
Yeah, but what, 89?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Big fans of the
No, it's
Jeremy.
not.
Well,
No,
come
it's
on.
not.
It's
Come
3
on.
years difference. We should all be everyone should know about the facts of life and Silver Spoons and Different Strokes. 3 of my favorite shows as a kid.
There you go. Big fans of the Jeremy Pruitt clips on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com as well. So congratulations to you, Ryan Porth. You continue to make the people happy. Ryan Porth, do we have a winner yet for the ticket giveaway for Nashville SC?
And I was right, by the way. Boom.
Yes, we do. What's the answer, Joe?
The answer is Man U, baby.
That's right.
All
Manchester
right.
United has the most titles of any club in the English Premier League top division.
There you go. So,
I don't know who won because he hasn't responded with his name yet, but the dude with the 90 or the woman with the 901 area code on the text line, you are the winner.
there you go.
Yes! That's
God
number
dang.
2.
That's number 1.
1.5.
I was trying to say congrats. No, man, that's number 1.
2.
You guys are pissing me off today.
It's all right. You'll be better. Be better tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow you won't bring up Stillman every segment, and you can operate the microphone correctly.
Stillman is what am I supposed to just not respond to him?
I mean, you've done it on the air every time. I don't know. This is exactly what he wants. You're just pumping those tires, man.
It's like Thanos.
Yes.
Just feeding him.
That's right.
All right, I'll stop.
I didn't say
I'm not going to mention him the rest of the week.
I'm just pointing out that you brought him up like almost every segment.
I will not. He can text me all day tomorrow. I won't even bring it up. I'm not going to mention him tomorrow at all.
I'm going to remember this.
Okay, remember it. He will get no oxygen on this show tomorrow.
There you go. There you go. Predators taking on the Blackhawks tomorrow. We'll have Preds Pick the Click coming up tomorrow as well at 8:45, a Friday game. Looking forward to that. That's a rarity here on the show. So tomorrow we'll have weekend winners, Call Your Shot Friday, Preds Pick the Click, and Nashville SC tickets giveaway, and Free Beer Friday. Got a lot going on the show tomorrow.
Man, yeah, but I'm glad we can bring up weekend winners.
Yeah. That's a
That's
decent
a
week for
topic
me.
I enjoy. Yeah,
Decent week for me this time. So
Good.
I'm not dreading it as much as I was the last couple of weeks.
so it's a more Porth problem then.
Yeah, that's right. That's going to do it for us today here on Robby and Rexrode. We'll be back 6 a.m. tomorrow. Make sure you stay tuned for Darren, Donick, and Chase. They've got you covered 10 to 2 today. This is ESPN 102.5 The Game.